Did you like our picture? I sent one to you in raw media. I sent her the raw real one because I updated uploaded our picture. Yeah. Okay, good. I put it on the other one.
One, two, three, guys. Okay, let us reconvene our public meeting. March 7th, 2017. Good evening, everyone. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let the roll call show that all board members are present. Okay. I thought I was loud enough, but we'll use electronic. Okay, at this time I'll report out from our closed session on placement of non-public school students Darrell Talkin motion, Georgian Lee seconded, and the board approved the placement of 2016-17 non-public school student number 89 by the following vote: 7 ayes, 0 noes. Personnel matters, resolution 2017-27, release non-reelect of probationary certificated employee. Motion was made and second. There was a second, and the board had 2 yeses and 5 noes. Okay, and that is the report out. So for the spotlight this evening, I'm told that they were unable to attend, so that will be tabled until the next meeting. And that spotlight was going to be a donation for classroom music. Very exciting. Okie doke. Next up would be superintendent's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Beverly, members of the board. I just want to share with you that we had our Ag Venture Day on February 28th. Have some photos to show you. This is where all 3rd grade classes in the county attend and experience based on agriculture. And Lodi is fortunate to have this hosted in Lodi at the Great Festival Grounds. And so you can see some of the presentations here. Busloads of 3rd graders poured in, and they were very excited to learn about agriculture and food and animals. There were live animals, huge farm equipment for them to see and learn about. So to thank our 3rd grade teachers for taking our children on those trips. Also want to let you know that Larson Stars Readathon was showcased on Good Day Sacramento this past Friday. We were going to try and get the link for you. Okay, woo-hoo. We're going to try and get you the link for you to see this evening, but that didn't quite work out. So hopefully you can look that up and see them on Good Day Sacramento. I want to congratulate the Tokay Science Bowl team for taking 1st place once again at the recent competition. I want to thank Tokay High School for hosting the event. I also want to congratulate Tokay High School for their competition in the San Joaquin County Science Olympiad competition hosted at McNair High School. They also took 1st place. And we had some other teams take some awards home. Middle school competition, Elkhorn had 2 teams. They took 2nd and 3rd, and Lodi Middle had a 5th place team. High school, of course, Tokay taking 1st place with their purple team. Lodi had 4th, and Tokay Gold had 5th. So congratulations to our students and coaches and everyone who helped with that effort. I want to let you know that today, thank you, Mr. Heverly and Mrs. Heverly, for also participating in the lunch. We had lunch at a brand new restaurant in Lodi, Don Giovanni's, at Vinewood Elementary School. And this is Judy Frazier's class. They do this every year, and it is quite spectacular. Board members, if you have not gone, I encourage you next year to take a little time. For $6, you get a fabulous lunch and just an enjoyable time watching our students learn about customer service, making change, serving food, how to handle customers and preparing food. They did all the decorations, turned the room into an Italian restaurant, and it was a fabulous experience for everyone. There's our special ed staff there enjoying their lunch. So thank you to our teachers and students for that. I want to remind everyone that this Saturday at Tokay High School is the 2nd annual NorCal Science and Technology Festival. Last year it was an amazing event, and it will be so again this year. Children and adults of all ages will have a fantastic experience. So Saturday at Tokay High from 10 to 3, please stop by. You will have a great time. And we have a special presentation. We have that ready to go. I'm going to ask Christy Arredondo to come up. Oh, no, there's all of us. It's Lori. Okay. Hello. participating in a professional development program, and they are going to share with you what they've been doing and give you a little taste of their professional development that they provide to our teachers. So I'm going to turn it over to the team.
Well, first of all, we want to say thank you to Dr. Washer for allowing us the opportunity to speak during her remarks and for the support that Lodi is giving our team. Also, we'd like to thank our union president, Michelle. She has been a tremendous support and advocate for us in this work. I'd like to introduce our team. This is Maria Mack, Rachel, and she's at Millswood, Rachel Flanagan from Mosher. My name is Lori Celez. I'm from Ansel Adams, and this is Christy Ardondo. She's also from Ansel Adams. We are part of a project called Instructional Leadership Corps, and this is a joint effort from Stanford Center for Opportunity Policy and Education and California Teachers Association, as well as the National Board Resource Center over at Stanford also. And they got together and asked how might teachers work together to take charge of their own professional development and improve learning outcomes for students. And this was brought about by the demand of the Common Core State Standards and Next Generation Science Standards. The fact that these will take time to master as teachers, and that teachers will need practice and support. So they came together, created the Instructional Leadership Corps in 2014. It was funded for 3 years, and we just received word this year that we are being funded for an additional 3 years because of the success of the program. So it's mobilizing teachers, providing meaningful learning experiences for our students. And it's transforming the way teaching and learning occurs in California. So we'd like to share with you a very quick video that gives you just a taste of what we're all about.
That's a little dry.
We can play it on an iPad and they can hold it up. Yeah, the sound and put it in the mic. Yeah, we could do that.
Students cannot learn in isolation. It takes hard work and collaboration to make an impact. Aren't we all here for one reason? How do we impact student learning in a positive way? How do we spark creativity, collaboration, and deepen professional learning? How do we create an environment that supports educators as leaders? Inspiring students can't be done in isolation. It takes hard work and collaboration to make an impact. To meet these challenges, the California Teachers Association, the Stanford Center for Opportunity Policy and Education, and the National Board Resource Center at Stanford founded a statewide Instructional Leadership Corps. The ILC encourages deeper learning and creates strong supports for teachers, leaders, and most importantly, students, by developing new partnerships within our educational ecosystem.
the first 2 years of the ILC project, ILC members have provided professional development to over 47,000 fellow educators.
At the district level, I got to have a different relationship with our curriculum instruction department.
I think a very most of this experience has been the networking with other teachers and other administrators and university personnel, and just learning from the participants that come to our sessions and seeing what they're doing in the classroom and taking some of those things and making it part of my classroom. And then the best part of all of this is learning from others.
I believe my instruction has changed dramatically because what I'm looking at now is being more reflective about my practice and the interactions that I'm having with my kids and the learning that's taking place. To me, this project is about the impact I can make in my classroom and the impact that I can make with my colleagues.
When we first started, everyone was very hesitant with the Common Core and how they could actually make that accessible to students in the classroom. We've seen that the teachers are becoming much more comfortable, and more importantly, we've seen the data that's showing that students are having academic success.
I've had the opportunity to work with colleagues who are working at a level which helps heighten my own understanding.
ILC workshops have helped a lot when we find for collaboration with our math department. There is now a constant conversation. What can we do further to improve us as a department, as teachers? What can we do so we can support the standards for mathematical practices and help the students be mathematically proficient?
My relationship with the district has allowed us to open the door to start a conversation about teachers training teachers and not just outside providers.
Over the next 3 years, it is the goal of the ILC to have teachers training teachers not just be an occasional recurrence, but something that is deeply rooted in our educational system in order to ensure that all of our students are college and career ready.
To find an ILC member in your local area, please visit our website.
Okay, so that's just an overview of our project that we're involved in, and the funders were on the last slide. This has been such an exciting thing to be a part of as an educator. We were at a conference recently, and I think the most exciting thing is that we're there with other teachers that are absolutely passionate about what we're doing. So, and administrators. So one thing that the project does, it's cross-role collaboration. So there's teachers, there's also principals, directors of curriculum. So we all work together to collaborate for our project. But I'd like to share with you briefly about what we are doing here in Lodi. We represent math, English language arts and technology, and science on our team. We all have different niches, and we work together to pull some PDs together. So far outside of our district, or our Lodi team has conducted an interactive technology PD at the Spring Educators Conference in San Joaquin County. We've done the pre-conference of the Good Teaching Conference in San Jose for Northern California on performance tasks and formative assessment. We have a math member, I forgot to mention her, Cam Wong. She and Maria presented at the National CPM Math Conference this year, and they covered engaging students in math practices for questioning. Rachel also is a lead teacher leader for a science partnership through West Ed and has conducted PDs on phenomenon-driven instruction and engineering in the elementary classroom. We have some PDs coming up within the district, and that is STEM, using STEM practices to integrate literacy. and it's sold out, by the way, so that's Rachel's. Also, we're preparing one on using primary sources to engage students in reading and writing and speaking. So that's coming up in April. It doesn't sound very exciting, but it's very interactive. Just the title doesn't sound exciting, but anyways, it's very interactive. And additionally, Chrissy and I had the opportunity, actually we were selected to go to a training at Stanford in November. There was 120 participants, 10 of whom were teachers. So we were, 2 of those teachers, we were kind of a novelty. They all wanted to talk to us because we were the oddity, I guess. But it was all on performance tasks. And Smarter Balance people were there and delivered some of the training. So we're hoping to bring that back to the district possibly next year. And that's all we have. So, also we brought some brochures that we'd like to share with you. This just gives you an overview of our project and maybe answers any questions that you have.
Great, thank you. Sounds exciting.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time we have comments from the public. 20-minute time period has been set aside for the public to address the board on non-agenda items. Each speaker should try to limit their comments to 3 minutes, and they're also welcome to distribute any materials to the board and or staff. Due to restrictions imposed by the California Brown Act regarding discussing topics that are not on the agenda, board members may not engage in dialogue about these issues. First I have is Lori Kraljev.
Lori Kraljev, 5095 East Armstrong Road. Thank you, Mr. Heberly and the board for the opportunity to talk to you. And thank you is what I'm here to say. 2 years ago, the speech language pathologists of Lodi Unified School District came to you to ask for help in attracting and retaining speech language pathologists. We were understaffed and overwhelmed, and there weren't enough hours in the day to provide the services we were passionate about providing. You responded with a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, that increased our workday from 7.5 hours to 8 hours, and our work year from 182 days to 187. It may seem strange that I'm standing here thanking you for more work, but of course the result of those important moves was that we were provided the gift of time. Time to assess struggling students, time to collaborate with teachers, time to complete reports and individualized education plans, and most importantly, time with our students in therapy. The other important effect was that those additional hours and days meant increased overall compensation that we hoped would attract more speech language pathologists to consider joining our district. Since the MOU was implemented, we are now fully staffed with speech language pathologists for the first time since I've worked for the district. The speech language pathologists who have joined our district are wonderful, and it's a privilege and a pleasure to work alongside them. Overall, our caseloads are more appropriate, our morale has improved, and most importantly, the majority of our speech language pathologists feel they are better able to serve their students' needs as required by their individualized education plans. We feel the MOU is working as intended, and we hope you agree. We hope and ask that it become permanent in the near future. The importance of this is underlined by the information I want to share with you now. We are so lucky to have several speech language pathologists who've been with the district 20 years or 30 years or even more. They share their experience and knowledge with us and enrich us every day. The downside is that many of them are now thinking about retirement. They have no responsibility to inform us or you in advance of making that decision, but their concern for the needs of their students moves them to be sure the board is aware of this. I can tell you that 13 speech language pathologists have indicated to us their intent to retire in the next 3 years. That adds up to 34% of your speech language pathologists retiring in the next 3 years. It is so important that you and we continue to make Lodi Unified School District a place speech language pathologists want to work. We need them. Again, thank you for listening, and thank you for responding when we needed you 2 years ago. We may need you again soon.
Next we have Martha Snyder.
Good evening, Mr. Heverly, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. I too am here to thank you. I'm thanking you in advance for giving some money to my school to allow me to go to the Q conference in Palm Springs next week. I will be getting on a plane the 15th and starting the conference on Thursday morning, the 16th. So I hope in the future that we can continue to promote teachers going out of our school district to gain good professional development, bring it back to our district. And I know that I'm working with Dr. Washer and the staff for looking to bring a STEM Academy here to Lodi. And we also have a Discovery Education event coming up in October this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Bethany Harris.
Good evening. I am here with the concern that Claremont will not be able to meet the needs of our Title I students next year. We all believe that students must have the resources to learn. At Claremont, there's talks of cutting our intervention teacher from full-time to part-time. We've had this position for as long as I've been at Claremont, about 20 years in different teacher capacity. Now, it's not because we don't have the budget for next year, it's because there's possible budget cuts of 22% in fear of what our new president is gonna do with the money. Next year, we are projected to have almost double 3rd through 6th grade students in need of reading intervention in the district's Read 180 program and System 44. We found out that other Title I sites are keeping a full-time intervention teacher, so we don't know how they're able to do it and we can't. Our school site council would like to keep the intervention teacher full-time, but we've been told there isn't enough money to pay for it, which is only true if this projected 22% budget cuts occur. We would love to have permission for next year to keep our teacher 100% and then take next year to restructure the program if the budget cuts do occur. So we would just like more information. Our school site council decided to give us a week to get as much information as we can about how much money we have, what the cuts are, when it will happen, and we're meeting again on Tuesday. So if we hear anything, we would love to know. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next card that I have is about safe schools, and it's Julie Jensen. If this is in regard to the resolution, we will discuss that, and you'll be able to speak at that time. Is Julie here?
I'm here. I'll speak later.
Very good. Okay, thank you. And I'm guessing the same thing with Abby?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Are there any other members who'd like to address the board on non-agenda items? Okay. Welcome to the podium. State your name, please.
Alex Olaferis, I live in Lodi, California. It's more of a transparency issue. People from the public, for example, I go on the website, there is no individual emails for all the school board members. So if us, the citizens, want to get a contact, there is no way to contact you. There is no phone number. And number two is the agenda. It's a hard time finding the agenda for tonight's meeting or the other following meetings. I've been through other school districts in other counties, and also like Stockton Unified, you go to the school board members, they have their emails and they have their and a phone number. For you guys, us from the citizens who live in Lodi, want to contact you, matter of concern, we have no such thing. So please correct that. Get your emails on there. get your individual phone numbers through the district, and make sure you get the agenda clearly stated on there, because this could be a Brown Act violation, a transparency violation, because you don't know where to click on. I click on the school board members, you would think the agenda is there, and then you have to go to the electronic thing. A lot of people will not click, they won't take their time. So please correct that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the public who'd like to make comment to the board? Okay, none appearing, we shall move on. We are now at consent agenda A, routine business. Are there any items board members who would like to pull for comment, discussion?
Mr. President, A2.
Two. Any others?
Mr. President, item A12.
Any others? All right. Just A12. Okay, and any members of the audience would like to pull one of these agenda items for further discussion? Okay.
Mr. President, I move we approve the routine agenda A, the rest of it.
Second. Okay, very good. Student preferential vote.
Hi. Hi.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome you. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, hey, thanks, no problem. Better late than never. All righty, board members, vote. There it is.
I'm not getting it.
Up top.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, sorry about that.
There we go. Motion passes 7-0. First item, A2, Gary.
A2 is regarding contracts. One is to provide financial planning and advisory services and to assist in preparing a capital and financing plan for about $15,000. Another one deals with to provide educational services for English learners for a total of $20,000. The total amount is $35,790. And my question really is, they're being paid to outside vendors. My question is, don't we have the resources to do this ourselves? Or is that out of our scope? Or it's almost $36,000. That's half of a teacher. Maybe a beginning teacher.
Anyone?
President Everly, I can comment on the first one.
Sure.
For the, no, we don't have bond capabilities within the district. This is highly technical bond consultancy, and this is, of course, for the future selling of our Measure U bonds.
All right. What about what's?
Lisa to comment. She's way in the back.
This is what Lisa said right
Watch
there.
this.
Oh, way up here.
No, way up here.
Tim, I thought you could do everything. Though. I thought you could do everything.
The other contract that's on the list is for JIM, I believe.
Yes, yes.
And it's for a provider that will work with our parents after school. I think it's Washington School that wanted to work with them to teach them English. Our parents have been requesting a language class to help them learn English. And so JIM does that for us, provides that service.
Yeah, so.
Yes, it is coming from Title I funds.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
I move we approve these contracts.
Second.
All right. Student preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Board vote. And it passes 7-0. Next up, A12, Mr. Needham.
Yes, sir. I have abstained from this vote since we'll be voting on. Just to let you know, I was discovered water leaking in my house about 4 in the afternoon on Tuesday at the board meeting. So my brother and I were down filling sandbags to keep the water out of my house. So that's where I was at on Tuesday.
That does sound like a hardship.
It was.
Mr. President, I move approval of item 12.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Student preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. And board. Motion passes 6-1 abstention. Thank you. All righty. Next up is consent agenda B, which is student discipline cases. Board.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve consent agenda B, discipline cases.
Thank you. Second. anyone?
Second.
Thank you for the second. Students, of course, you know you don't vote on student discipline cases. But thank you for being here. All righty, board. Motion passes 7-0. And we have other action items. Mr. Hearn, second interim financial report.
There's no PowerPoint. Apparently we just have the PDF, so we can work off of that. Okay. Which one would you like me to?
The one that says compatibility mode.
Thank you, President Early, members of the board. We're here for our second interim. Again, interims are a snapshot in time for us to report to the county, and the county then forwarding this report to the state. As we've said many times before, this district does budget changes at every one of its meetings, which is probably unusual for most school districts. Many times the actual changes are seen either at the first and second interim. So again, I'm always telling you, I'm telling you old news. We'll start out with the key components to this. The multi-year projections are based on the governor's January 2017-18 budget, which we remember is not good news this year. The second interim reflects current year one-time mandated dollars. These are dollars that we've been getting to pay back for the mandated costs that the district has had over several years. Projected restricted budget ending fund balance continues to decline. This is basically from our federal funds. These funds, we've had dollars that we have been spending down over the last 4 or 5 years, and they're getting down to where it's very minimal at this point in time. The current total ending fund balance reflects the use of one-time dollars from textbook adoptions and the deferral of other post-employee benefits, OPEBs, to the balance to 17-18. This is what we discussed in the workshop that we had when we had the LCAP and LCFF. STIRS and PERS increase continues to erode new funding, and expenditures are based on current LCAP assumptions as discussed at the board's LCFF workshop. I forgot to always introduce Angel Mernon, our Director of Budgets, but I think everyone knows her.
Good morning, or good afternoon. It's been a long day apparently. This slide reflects our revenue changes from adopted to the board approved budget, and then what we're now presenting to you at second interim as projected year totals. You can see that there isn't any major changes in revenue across the board. It's pretty flat, not much changes from adopted. The expenditures, you can see that there's been some changes where you see the biggest changes are in the 3000s, where we show that there's been the increase in STIRS and PERS. And you can see that there's been a large decrease in the 6,000s, which reflects our one-time funding of mandated cost claims where we did a lot of capital outlay expenditures for our maintenance and operations. Our enrollment for the district, although we are increasing in enrollment, which we have reflected in second interim, we increased our ADA by 50 from first interim report for you guys. We are on our natural trend, so you can see the light bluish line at the very top. We are increasing in our enrollment overall, but we are on our natural decline for the district at this point. We did increase ADA by 50. The multi-year projections, this is our ending fund balance projections, and you can see that they are rising. So the green bar is the current year ending fund balance projections. The blue would be next year, and then the red is the year after that. However, the caveat to that is that in these numbers reflects anticipated reserves for potential settlements. If those settlements are reached with our labor unions, then the reserves will drop. So we are showing an increase right now because we moved those one-time dollars in the current year, as Tim mentioned a second ago, down into our reserves. So that's why you see a little bit of an increase. This is a list of what our current ending fund balance consists of. You can see that we have a contingency reserve for any unknowns that pop up. There's a designated economic uncertainty reserve, our grade span adjustment, our instructional materials reserve, our programmatic reserves, and our special education unforeseen expenses reserve. The 17-18 governor's budget reserve is the one-time dollars that we pulled from the current fiscal year that we are not spending for the OPEB and the textbook adoption and placed in for 17-18 expected expenses.
And before we go to the next slide, when we look at that special ed, remember when we had the adopted budget, that was a $2 million reserve, and has gone down by well over $500,000 for expenses in special education. We still our current trend is still that we're growing in special education, and that we're needing to add more program to that particular program.
Sir, since you brought that up.
Yes.
That special education money comes primarily from the federal government, doesn't it?
No.
It's all state?
It's federal, state, and contribution from the general fund.
Okay. But the money we get from the federal, is that mainly Title I, or is it?
No, that is a special education
So the money that comes
dollar.
from the federal government is mainly special education.
Theoretically, it's supposed to pay for the entire special education program, but it's come close.
There is a bill right now that's been introduced to the House. They're always introducing bills. But one is to allow parents and homeschoolers to get a portion of the federal money. And that would be the voucher program that's being touted right now. So it's a possibility we could see an even further drop in special education money.
I would agree that when it comes to federal dollars, we're all very anxious about that.
Okay, just wanted to make that clear.
Jim, I have a question on the second last bullet. What's the difference?
They're actually very similar, but the 3% economic uncertainty at the very bottom, that is what our required set aside 3% is. The one at the top, the county has allowed districts to double their 3% requirement of economic uncertainty, because the 3% economic uncertainty doesn't even cover 1 month's worth of salary for the district. So we're allowed to double that 3%.
Thank you.
And also, Mr. Nava, if in fact the state law that would require us to reduce our reserve, and it hasn't come into effect because the criteria has not been hit yet, it would allow us to carry that additional 3%. That's what that represents.
Any other questions?
One is coming. And so where are we at right now, the STRS and FERS contributions? Correct.
Yeah, I'm,
Percentage-wise.
oh, our percentage in the overall budget?
Yeah.
I don't know
No,
what
as far
the,
as individually, how much do we have to contribute right now? What's it going to?
we're contributing 13.8% for PERS and 12.58 for STRS.
Okay.
And that's increasing. STRS is going up 1.85%. And PERS is going up, it's like 1.97 or it's really close to 2%.
So those contributions are going to continue to go up even more from over the next few years?
Yes.
Yes. By the mid-20s, it's anticipated that PERS will be at 28 to 29%. And by 2021, STRS will be a little over 20%.
Is the state contribution going up?
No, there is no
I
contribution.
just checked.
There is no contribution from the state.
Yeah, lottery.
Yeah. Just check.
Yeah.
Any other questions, board members? Questions from the public? It's open to you if you have any at this time. Students, any questions? All right, well, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. This is an action item.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hammerly, Angel, wonderful presentation as always. Numbers are rock solid, and we have you to thank for an excellent presentation. With that, Mr. President, I would move to approve the report.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Student preferential vote.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you, ladies. Board vote. Yeah. It's really blurry. Wow.
I swear I
did something. Hold down here. Hold down. There you go.
Well, that's not the problem.
Okay.
All right, thanks so much. Item passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am. Whoa. Very good. All righty, next up is other action item is resolution 2017-19, affirming Lodi Unified School District's support of its students and families regarding immigration enforcement actions at schools. Ms. Castle, would you like to lead off?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. As you can see, here's our resolution on all of the screens. And I would like to draw your attention. All the paragraphs in this resolution are very important. But Todd, if you could scroll down to the second to the last paragraph. That is the heart of what the resolution is all about. And I'll just read it aloud for you, but it is the second from the bottom. It says, "Be it further resolved that the board reaffirms Lodi Unified School District's unequivocal commitment to ensuring a safe and non-discriminatory educational environment for students and their families, regardless of immigration status." So that's the heart of this resolution. This is an action item tonight, so that means that once the board has completed our discussion, President Heberly will open up to the audience for your comments, and then we will be voting on this tonight. And I would like to explain my motivation for bringing this resolution to the board, and thank Dr. Washer and her staff once again for compiling this. That was at my direction and putting it together for us. And to do this explanation, I also wanted to explain, and you can probably tell already, that I am very passionate about this resolution, and I am very hopeful that this resolution will pass tonight. So to do my explanation, I'd like to use the concept of universal truths. And that's probably something, that's a term that we don't use very often. I think we all know what a universal truth is, but it's not used very often. So I'll just give you a real quick definition. So a universal truth is a word or a phrase that everyone can relate to, but no two people see it exactly the same way. And I'll give you an example so this makes sense. And by the way, before I give you the example, that term universal is really key and very key to this resolution as well, because universal, as you all know, is reaching across borders, the commonality that we share as people across the world, regardless of where you come from. And so that's another reason why I like using these universal truths as a way to help me explain to you why I care so much about this resolution, but also that these words tend to be emotionally charged. But first, let me give you the example. If I say family, all of you right now can start mentally thinking about that word, and you all, of course, know exactly what it means. So if I was to give a quiz to everyone right now, you would all get an A+, because you all know what family means. However, if I were to go across and ask all of you to share your perception of what family means to you, none of us would really agree 100%. And that's because, of course, we all bring our own experiences, our own interpretation, and so forth to the word family. But it's a great one of those examples of a universal truth. And again, universal truth kinds of words are emotionally charged. They fall into two camps. The positive, kind of happy-go-lucky, uplifting word that family can be. And they also fall into the other side where they have negative connotations for the most part. Now, bear with me. I'm going to just go on a bird walk for just a moment, but I promise this has relevance. For the last few years, every summer, I go and work in national parks as a national park ranger. And I need to tell you that I use universal truth as a park ranger all the time. As a matter of fact, I have to do that because National Park Service has told us park rangers that when we lead guided hikes in wilderness or along lake shores or a boat tour or something like that, or we give campfire programs, junior ranger programs, the whole host of things that park rangers do, our theme has to revolve around a universal truth. Why? Because that's how you get an emotional attachment from your audience. You have the audience be a little bit more interested in your topic, and it's a way to connect to the public. I'll give you an example. In summer 2012, I worked at Yellowstone National Park at Old Faithful. So those of you who have been to the Old Faithful, you know that it is a geyser, of course, but it's not like a standalone. There's a whole bunch of other geysers that sit there with it, but it's kind of the blockbuster geyser of them all. There were 21 of us interpretive park rangers working at Old Faithful that year. And each one of us has to do our own programs originally, thought up our own idea, researched, and so forth. Now, Old Faithful is so faithful, if you've been there. So the summer I was there, every 89 minutes, day and night, Old Faithful erupted. Right on time, every time, day and night. So we can post the times online. So people that show up to watch Old Faithful do it very routinely. It's part of their schedule. They usually show up about 10 minutes before Old Faithful's going to erupt. They watch the eruption, they turn around, check that off the bucket list, and away they go. So we were told, we want a little bit more investment, if possible, in our visitors, if you can possibly coax that. And so what I would do is we would stand there about 10 minutes before the eruption. And I came to know during that summer that my favorite universal truth kind of word was wonder, as in Old Faithful is a natural wonder. Don't you see? This is rare. It doesn't happen very often. What you're going to see will be exhilarating, but I have to tell you, I would say to my audiences, there's a bit of a mystery to it too. And there's another one of those universal truth types of word, mystery. So for instance, all during that summer, it was on time every time except for once. It failed. It did not erupt when it was supposed to. It was off a couple of minutes. But what I loved about that was none of the scientists could explain why. And so we could tell our audiences there's a bit of mystery to this, making all the natural wonder even more wondrous. The whole idea, of course, was to try to enhance their experience, to get their investment in national parks, and to hope that they would be good stewards. The whole idea of national parks, as you all know, is to pass that legacy on to future generations, to the children. And so you have to have the investment of the public in order to do that. Now, I'm coming back to the resolution. Okay, I know, it was quite a big resolution. Our resolution tonight, there are several really good universal truth types of words in the resolution. But there is also a universal truth type of word that is not named in the resolution, but nonetheless is the reason for the resolution. So you're not going to see it there, but it is absolutely, in my opinion, the reason that this resolution needs to pass. The one word universal truth that is at the heart of this resolution is not like my park words, happy, positive, wonder, mystery. No, it's not one of those words. It's on the other side of the list. It has a very negative connotation. And as soon as I tell you what this word is, you probably already guessed. I apologize ahead of time because immediately in your minds, you'll start thinking what it means to you. The word is fear, And as soon as I say that, all of you know the definition, but you're all going to have a different perspective on that word, what it means to you based on your experiences, what has happened to you in the past, how you reflect upon it, and so forth. Now, I don't know how this happens, but I know it happens. That fearful moments from childhood stay with you forever. So I'm pretty old, but I can remember like it was yesterday, fearful moments from my childhood, which was a long time ago, and I bet you can too. They tend to be seared into your memory. But what's worse is if these fearful moments happen in a school setting. And so I had to kind of search my memory bank and think, was there a time, a long time ago, when I was in elementary school, say, when I had a fearful moment in school, and I came up with one, and I have to apologize ahead of time. It's pretty silly. And so you may have much more powerful memories, but here's what I came up with, because I was a total nerd about school. I loved school. And I really was very fortunate in going all the way through school without any serious fearful moments, except for this example. I think it was maybe second grade, and again, I'm dating myself. That was the time period when we did duck and cover drills. Why? Because the Soviet Union was going to bomb us at every moment. And so if you were my age, and I don't think many of you are as old as I am, but we would have to crouch under our desks, and the teacher would tell us that that's how you're going to survive this. And I remember thinking, like, survive? What is going to happen? Who are the Soviets?
It was scary. I remember thinking, I wish my mom at home had a school desk, but she doesn't, and so what's going to happen to her? And that second grade mentality that starts wondering. So that's my kind of silly example. And by the way, they didn't do that for very long because it was ridiculous when you think about it, that the desk, of course, would protect you. Now, we have had testimony in this boardroom and at our last meeting when we were at Julia Morgan from our staff members who have told us that we have children in our schools that are fearful. So we know this is true. We have heard testimony about children who come from homes where, yes, a person in a uniform came to the door and took away family members. So we know that's happening, of course. And what we also know is that there is an aura, I guess I'll have to call it. I'm trying to stay with safe words, but I'll just say it outright. I mean, the climate right now, it's impossible for a child to ignore the dialogue that's going on and to wonder, to see the TV screen, the computer screens, to hear the concern in their parents' voices, and so on and so forth. Now, the 7 of us are trustees. We are elected by all of you. I have been elected 3 times. I've been on the board longer than anyone else, going into my 11th year, if you can believe that. We have, at last count, 28,795 students in Lodi Unified. Our student population could be a small city. When you think about it, it's enormous. If you take that many kids, almost 30,000 students, add their family members, you can easily get to, if my math is right, what, 100,000 people that this resolution speaks to. It's their families, it's their parents, it's their siblings, it's the children in our schools. This resolution needs to pass, and here's why. It needs to remind those parents, all those parents of all those children, that yes, we have a law in place, a Supreme Court law decided in 1984 that says that public schools must provide a free and equitable education to all children regardless of their immigration status. That law is in place and we honor that law in our district. So we need to remind the parents, this is based on law. We need to reaffirm our commitment as a district and as a board of education, as trustees, that we are committed, as that resolution states, without a shadow of a doubt, that we will provide a safe educational environment for every one of those 28,795 students. And we need to tell our students that that classroom, that most of them, especially the elementary level, and you elementary teachers know this, they love that classroom. I've said this before, they love their desk, they love their teacher, they love the staff members, they love the school. That is a safe place. And we are telling you that with this resolution. It is unthinkable to me that any of our children are in our classrooms and are fearful. That is not okay. And that's symbolically what this resolution puts to rest. Fear has no place in our schools. That's what we're saying with that resolution. And as a board of trustees, we are elected by all of you. We are in a position to state that emphatically by successfully passing this resolution. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, am going to support this resolution. Our country is one that was built upon immigrants. And what we've seen is that there tends to be later generations of immigrants tend to discriminate upon newer generations, so discrimination. And we don't want to have that happen it's wrong. And I think we all came for a better opportunity. Our district is one that is 2/3 of English learners, and which of course are immigrants, and 3/4 of which are poverty. We are not going to turn our backs on these students. We're not going to turn our backs on these their families. As my esteemed council, Ms. Castle has pointed out, these numbers are huge, and they are who we represent. The vast majority of our constituents are these individuals to which this applies. In my review of this, there's two major selling points: law of the United States, and two, we are following board policy. What we are ensuring, though, is just like Ms. Castle pointed out, is the success of our children by limiting fear. So I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to ask not only that my board members support this, but that this be supported unanimously.
Take a look at the resolution. Some of the key words in it is that the board is committed to the success of, whereas under both state and federal law, all students have the right to attend public schools. And the board will reaffirm its focus on promoting, elevating customer service, inclusiveness, and kindness to all students and families. It also reaffirms the authority of the superintendent to protect the data to the full extent allowed by the law. Reaffirms a commitment to ensuring safe and non-discriminatory educational environment. And anyway, there's nothing in this resolution that's illegal. There is probably a lot of redundancy with our current board policies, but I think that's okay. And it probably is political, but that's not this board's doing. We didn't make it political. That's just the climate that we live in. And it just is what it is. So when I was thinking about this, how I was going to vote, actually several months ago now, I just fell back on my guiding principle as why I became a board member and an educator. And the question is always, is it good for students? And in my opinion, I think it is. I think if it makes, the resolution will make students feel safer and in school, then it's a good thing. So I will, in fact, vote to support the resolution.
Mr. Freitas and Ms. Castle for your eloquent comments on this. It is my fault that we're doing this tonight because I asked that it be tabled from last week so that I would have a chance to speak about it and to vote on it. I want to begin by saying there's not one of my board members here that don't agree with the principles of what is being stated in that resolution. Every one of the board members here are not here because of anything else that they want to help the kids. So everybody agrees with what's being said, okay? But the comment has been made that it may be political. Well, I'm here to tell you that you're right, it is. Everything we do is political. We are, by definition, politicians. We all got here by running for office. You know, I remember that in 2010, the year that I was running for the board, I went to a city council meeting, and there were several city council member candidates that year, a bunch of them up there. And there was one young guy, Tim Reed, and I really liked him, just a nice guy. And then, of course, there was Larry Hansen, and I like Larry, too. He's a great guy. He was running for re-election, okay? But now, every time Tim got asked a question, he would always start by saying, you know, I'm not a politician, but And then he kept doing that. And finally, a little bit later, he got asked a question. Sure enough, Tim started the same way. I'm not a politician, but interrupted him. And he said, Tim, you signed up for the election. You're sitting here at the table with us. Guess what that makes you? And that's true. That's when it came to, it dawned on me, oh my God, I'm a politician. So, but that doesn't mean you have to be a bad politician. Okay? So you just do the best you can on this. But this is a political issue. But there is a difference between being a political issue and us being nonpartisan. Of course we're nonpartisan. There's no Republicans or Democrats here. Everything we deal with is political. You remember last year, I think it was, when we had the, oh my God, the freedom of speech thing out of Bear Creek? You tell me that wasn't political. I mean, we got letters from all over the country on that one. So things happen. It's the nature of the beast. We can remain nonpartisan and support this resolution. In a way, by not voting to support the resolution, that in and of itself is political. So I'm going to urge to follow Mr. Freitas' lead on this, and I am going to urge all of my board members. Let's pass this unanimously.
You know, I could take more time than Ms. Castle did with my experiences, okay? Because I come from a migrant family situation, and I was a migrant worker in my younger age. So this resolution speaks to 44% of the population of Lodi Unified School District. Very important to me, because I do come from that type of environment, and I supported it. I always supported. I never said I don't care if it's political or what it is. It's a great, well-written proposition. We already have a board policy, 5145-3, that affirms non-discrimination and harassment, and non-discrimination in programs and activities in our district. But this is the meat of the thing. Resolution 1719. I have no doubt that if it's not unanimous, something is wrong with this board. Thank you.
I think it's been stated very well and very clearly, and I absolutely wholeheartedly agree, that if a child comes to one of our schools, by golly, we're going to educate him and give him services. Period. Done. That's the law. We're going to do it. And it's the right thing to do. And Mr. Nava just alluded to that we do have policies in place that aim to protect our children against discrimination and harassment. And also the one that wasn't mentioned, which is also a very important policy, is protecting student information. And that's absolutely important. And one of the things that, I hear is, Ms. Castle mentioned fearful. Oh, I agree. There undoubtedly is fear from a lot of different things, and obviously one of them is deportation, which is really a sad thing. Obviously, last week, we're immigrants, and I'm darn proud of it. History of immigrants, and if you don't know that, you don't know our history. When it gets to the fearful part, that if you sense that a child is fearful, that is a teachable moment. That's when you look them in the eye and you tell them, look, this district will protect you. We have policies in place. We will protect your information. And Dr. Washer, we had a discussion about this. List of who is and who isn't legal or illegal. That doesn't exist. Comes asking for who is and who isn't. We don't have that information. It doesn't exist, according to the superintendent. So, you know, and that's great. That is not our business. Our business is taking care of children, period. And they also have a lot of needs. You heard the speech therapists. We have psychologists. We have a lot of services that we provide and should provide and will continue to provide. And I think that that teachable moment when you discover that somebody is fearful, that is absolutely when you tell them that we do have these policies in place for a specific reason, and that is to protect you. So, you know, we have those things in place. So the word redundant is there. Yeah, absolutely. This is redundant. And it does have, certainly has tones of politics. And like Mr. Needlick and I were talking, we were trying to remember that adage. If you're not involved in politics, you're going to pay the
Politics is your life.
Yeah, it was something like that, and we both agree, absolutely, that, you know, politics is everywhere. But I think it was worth, I hope it was worth stating that, yeah, we have those things in place, and that's when you tell the children, look, we have these policies in place, we will protect your information, you're safe here. So I'll let anybody else on the board, discussion, students, if you'd like to go first, before I open it up to the public, you're more than welcome to make comment if you like. If you want, think about it, I'll come back to you. Let's open it up to the public. I don't want to pressure you. We'll open it. Oh, I'm sorry. We do have a couple of speakers. Julie Jensen. Oh, please come on up to the podium.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
You know, I would like to hear a negative on it. I've heard all positives, and I personally, I know that a lot of the people that are here supported it last week for an hour and a half, and I know how they feel. If I have some negatives, I'd like to hear that because I'm interested in that.
And you may once we start talking. Okay, Julie Jensen, please come forward. You're welcome to the podium. Good evening.
Good evening. I was not here last meeting to hear the hour and a half of speaking, and I don't want to restate something that's been stated dozens of times. I would like to address Mr. Heverly. You stated that the teachable moment, that we would state this when we had a child that was fearful. There are many teachers here in this room. Do we know when every child is fearful? We don't. Children are fearful and never. And they all need to hear this voice tell them that they're safe. They all need to hear that. These are innocent children who come to school in fear every day. I hear it, but I don't know how many children are too afraid to even tell me that they're afraid of that, to even reveal their status. Make them less safe to come and talk to me about that for some children. They need you to tell them that they are safe. They need that. I don't understand what political or religious ideology would hold you back from telling children, restating something that's already law and reassuring them that they are safe when they come to school, because that would be a very cruel ideology. And I just want to urge you to please reconsider and please support this. Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute, I have one more. Oh, gee, I keep forgetting. Thank you. Are you still here? Please come forward. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Abby Rocco, and I've written a letter to you and a letter to the editor, and I just wanted to ask you personally to please support this. It sounds like Sounds like you will, but please support it on behalf of our friends in our community. Thank you.
My name is Sonia Renholt. I work for Lodi Unified School District. And it is my pleasure to read this statement prepared by my amazing friend and colleague, she the community with a prior commitment. Honorable Board of Trustees and Superintendent Washer, I apologize for not being able to deliver this speech in person, as I have previously committed to serve as judge for the Lyons High School students' speech and debate tonight. As I shared with you at the last board meeting, my journey to become a citizen was arduous. I neglected to share that because of the emotional turmoil at that time, I was not able to concentrate on school and I failed a couple of classes. For those of you who know Van Ha, the idea of her failing anything at all is honestly incomprehensible to me. So on that side note, I need to say that that must have been an incredibly fearful time for her because she succeeds at everything she touches. Sorry, I digressed. She didn't know I was going to do that. I'll go on. As well as for students who are citizens and friends who are undocumented. The anxiety and fear can cause higher rates of absenteeism and erode students' trust of teachers and school employees. Not affirming the district's respect for diversity and commitment to the safety of staff and students can create greater potential for racial and ethnic profiling. It can also lead to potential violations of the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which prevents schools from disclosing information in students' files without parental consent or a court order. District employees may not be aware of legal protections available to students and may willingly or erroneously collaborate with immigration officials without court orders, leaving themselves and the district open to legal challenges. A case study in what schools should not do took place more than a decade ago in an Albuquerque, New Mexico school district. In 2004, city police assigned in schools called Border Patrol agents on 3 undocumented students. The Mexican American Legal Defense Fund sued on behalf of the students against the school district and the city police department. They were successful in their lawsuit. We have an incident locally as well. In 2010, a student who was involved in a fight was driven by a Stockton Unified Police Department officer to the Federal Immigration Center rather than Juvenile Hall. When his father went to visit him at the federal office, they were both detained and deported. Stockton Unified officials admitted at the time that it had been a mistake to take him to the federal authorities. One of the responsibilities of school board trustees is to provide community leadership as advocates for children and public schools. By passing the resolution, you are reaffirming Lodi Unified School District's commitment to inclusiveness, positive school climate for staff and students, and I would like to thank Trustee Howell, who will vote in support for the resolution this evening. Your compassion and thoughtfulness speaks volumes to your diverse staff and students. Thank you for your courage to stand up for what sincerely Van Ha Tocal.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Spencer Dayton. I'm from Lodi. Mr. President, board members, and Dr. Washer, I stand here tonight once again, obviously, in support of this resolution. A lot of this has been said tonight, but it can never be said too much. I came tonight with the support of my friend who spoke to you last time as well, Mr. Zachary Denny, because we promised we'd be here, at least one of us, to make sure you did your job. These children deserve every right that I had growing up through Lodi Unified Schools. That right is to attend school without being scared. I was bullied and was scared, but I was reassured by teachers all throughout my career. that I was safe as long as I was at school. Now, as it's been stated, the Supreme Court has already given you this pathway, and the law protects you for this. However, if you vote no, go ahead, violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Mr. Freitas, once again, can tell you the problems with that. I will also tell you, as a community activist and as the chairman of the American Civil Liberties Union for our county, we will fight. And if you do not support this and will not do your job of protecting our students, we will elect people who will do this job and will protect students. Because it is your duty as a trustee to protect all students, no matter what. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Diskin. I am the co-chair of the Leadership Lodi program. I'm part of the faculty at the University of the Pacific, and I'm also the co-founder of the Stockton Area Atheists and Freethinkers. I live at 2250 Scarborough, directly across the street from Beckman Elementary, where every day when I leave for work at Pacific, I see children coming in and parents dropping off their children. And it pains me to think that as they do that, as they go into that school, that they might have the fear that Julie and others have spoke on, that when they go home, they may not have their parents to greet them. When they go out back into the street to be picked up by their parents, instead. Your mission is to ensure the best possible education for students to be successful in life, and that requires an environment free of distraction, free of bullying and intolerance, and not worrying if their attendance at school will lead to their parents' deportation. My mom is an immigrant. She, in her 70s, she is in her 70s and her green card expires this year. She's whiter than I am, and I'm sure she has no fear of being deported as she walks into Costco, but she should not have to live with that fear, and neither should any of our students here. It shouldn't matter if you're gay, transgendered, Muslim, or an atheist. One should not need papers to be educated in livable, lovable Lodi. And so I urge you to do everything that's within your power and your influence to give children the peace of mind that they need to have an education free of distractions. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Suga Moriwaki. I live in Lodi. And I feel compelled to just say, I hope you vote for this resolution. What if 75 years ago, there had been a people of courage who stood up and said, the incarceration of all Japanese Americans on the West Coast is wrong? Would my life have been different? I think
President Heberly, members of the board, Superintendent Washer. Again, my name is Jess Cerna. I live at 1203 West Monterey Avenue in Stockton. And I won't repeat, I was here last time, and I want to thank the board for inviting us back, that we're at your last board meeting. And I won't repeat kind of the explanation why I was at the board meeting last time, but because Board Member Neely wasn't there, I am a former K-12 administrator. Actually, Lisa and I are former colleagues, and as Mr. Navon. I also was born and raised in Lodi Mason Hospital, which doesn't even exist anymore. So it used to be over on School Street. And I was educated in Lodi Unified. Went to Houston School from kindergarten to 8th grade and Lodi High School. So I was blessed. And as I said, told the board last time, I was blessed to have some very good teachers that were influential in my life and the life of my family. A couple of things I just want to touch on. I was a little, and I'm heartened by your words. So thank you very much by your concern. I was a little concerned with the article I saw on the Lodi News said no, only from the context that it said that this was some symbolic gesture. And I hope it isn't that. I hope if this resolution passes that the superintendent will work with her staff to have in-service for staff, so they know how to deal with these kinds of set of circumstances, that it's not just symbolic. As Mr. Board Member Nava knows, Ms. Towsey knows, we were at Stockton Unified. I was at Stockton Unified when that young man was transported to the INS, and when his father was deported, and the mother was here without the father and her children. It was awful. So I'm hoping that if this resolution passes, again, that it will be not more than just a symbolic gesture, that you'll actually provide in-service to staff. I might also suggest that I understand the politics of this. I truly do, having come from somewhat of a political family. But words matter. And the words that are missing from your resolution are safe haven. And my suggestion to you is that you amend the resolution by just titling it what it is, so that folks understand what it is, so staff understands what it is. More importantly, so parents and children understand what this resolution is. So my suggestion to you is that I believe words matter, and that you need to be declarative with what you're trying to do here, and that you add those two words. A couple more things, and I'll move on. As I said, I was born and raised in Lodi. I went to Lodi High School, and there was one black student when I went to school at Lodi High School. One black student, Norman Hodge. Hung out with us because we were the only ones that looked as close to him as possible. But Norman hung out with us. And what that means, and possibly means, and I'm not going to say it, but Lodi has been perceived as a pretty close community. It wasn't welcoming of people of color, especially black folks. About a month ago, I was able to attend a function here in Lodi at the Methodist Church. It was sponsored by, it was for a commemoration of Martin Luther King. And it was sponsored by a group called, I believe they're called Breakthrough, which was as a result, I believe, of a cross burning at one of your high schools. And they were trying to create an environment that changed this, the belief that Lodi was a closed community. Well, I'm going to tell you, your vote tonight is more than just a vote for those students and those families. It's a clear message to this entire community, to this entire city, that it's not closed and restricted to just people who aren't of color. So your vote today this evening means more than just for this school district. It's important for this city. I will share a story with you and take it for what it's worth. I was, and you know, board member Freitas knows that we used to work together for San Joaquin County. I worked in the personnel department back then. It was about 1978 or I'm sorry, 98, 97, somewhere around there. Working in Stockton. We lived in Galt at the time. And I decided to stop off in Lodi to pick up some dinner on the way home. And I stopped off at this little Chinese deli on Lodi Avenue. And if you live in Lodi, you might know where it's at. It's right across from Chapel's. It's tiny. Walk in, there's where the food is, and to the right is the cash register, and there were 3 or 4 chairs that you could sit on. So I went in, dressed in my professional attire, put my order in, and sat down in one of the chairs. And to my left, there was a gentleman there, dressed like he was a farmer. I'm going to guess in mid-40s. And then standing near the door was another gentleman. Apparently they were friends, also a farmer. And they're talking to each other. And I'm sitting literally shoulder to shoulder. And the gentleman sitting next to me says, well, you know, we got a good crop this year, but, you know, I got a good crew of Mexicans working, and I got this one Mexican who I have living in this shack. And if they give me any trouble, I just call the border patrol and get a whole new crew of them. He's sitting right next to me. And I couldn't take it anymore. So I leaned over and I said, are you blind? And I didn't say, there was an adjective that I use and I can't repeat here. I said, are you blind or are you just stupid? And luckily they called my order just at that time. So I get up to get my order and I walk, and he pulls me out. He apologized to me. And I said, there's nothing you can say that's going to make this right. What you said is what you believed. That we were just disposable farm implements. So tell these children that they're not just disposable. Tell them that they're important. Tell them that and tell this community that. By voting for this resolution, you will be telling that community that. So I'm heartened by the words I've heard. And let me assure you all, we're all now rapists, we're all now murderers, we're all not drug dealers. Some of us are teachers, some of us are administrators, some of us are astronauts, some of us are judges. You know what? And some of us even become mayors one of these days. So thank you very much.
Thank you, members of the board. My name is Lee Kraljev. I live at 5095 East Armstrong Road. I'm a former Lodi Unified student. I graduated from Tokay High School with your daughter, Mr. Heverly. And I wanted to talk about a classmate of ours, and I wasn't sure if I should because it's not my story to tell, but he's not here to tell it, and I think it's an important one. One of the top graduates of our class was an undocumented immigrant who was brought here as a child. He worked harder than any other student in our class, harder than anyone in middle school, harder than anyone at Tokay, and he ended up having one of the highest GPAs in our graduating class. He worked so hard that not only did he get into a top university, but he received scholarships and financial aid to cover the entire tuition. However, when it was discovered that he was undocumented, financial aid could no longer afford to attend college. After doing everything right, after working so hard, he still lost it all. And then he ended up killing himself. I wanted to share that story to underline the fact that these are real people who are facing real consequences. And it has affected our students in the past. These are real children whose futures are on the line, real children who are afraid for their safety. And if students are afraid while they're at school and they cannot access their right to an education, we have a responsibility to them to protect this right and to reaffirm the LUSD policies that are already in place. And so why is it important to reaffirm these policies? As it has been said before, policies mean nothing to students if they don't know they exist, and they mean nothing to teachers or parents if they don't know they exist. When a child comes home frightened from school, or a teacher sees a student being bullied in class, being told they should be afraid because they're going to be rounded up and deported, those parents and teachers need to be able to point to this resolution to reassure their children that while they are at school, making a statement, as was said, not passing this resolution will be making a much larger political statement. Not following the guidance of the state superintendent is making a political statement. Not following the California Department of Education guidelines, not upholding the 1984 Supreme Court decision, not following the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, that would be making a political statement. And these are the laws Lodi Unified needs to uphold and reaffirm them. Over 40% of Lodi Unified students are Latino, and almost 20% of Lodi residents are foreign-born. These are our children, our family members, our students, our neighbors, our community members. They are the foundation and future of Lodi. As school board trustees, you have a moral obligation to protect the right to an education for all students. I urge you to vote yes on this resolution. Thank you for your time.
My name is Katie and I'm president at TI. I think that you should vote yes on this resolution because all of my classmates should feel safe when they're at school, and the teachers should protect the students' rights. Thank you for your time.
Beverly and the board. My name is Professor Jackie Laughlin Shaw, born in Lodi, and I was also born in Mason Hospital.
Right around the corner from certain school.
And I spent nearly all of my career and personal life wanting to be more culturally insensitive. I ended up being appointed to chancellor advisory committees at UC Berkeley and at University of Nevada. And then I later taught and minored in Spanish, and I got world literature and classics. And so I taught all levels of ESL, that's 7th to 9th and to 12th, adult ESL, and English second language and learning development. And then I taught faculty at a district for multicultural. Most of them wanted their students to learn English, not just Spanish. And then I taught overseas, and ironically, where, yes, they were attacked by the Soviets, and it's been 40 years of war. So it was quite a different world. I had my students sit in their seats here, although I liked having exciting activities. And over there, they'd stand really appreciating Americans. So I think what they're meant, it should be more frank. I would request to consider an amendment that we will make options to be legal. There's no reason for anyone to not be legal. You've got visas. We had foreign student visas at Cal, but things got confused with amnesty. And there are student visas. There are green cards. I minor Spanish at the vineyard, and I got in the field of the workers, and many of them had an Indian dialect. So it's real curious. The ones that are, they're 30 millionaire families in oil business in Mexico, they should be helping them more. But I noticed that in the field. I'm trying to speak the Spanish I learned, and they're speaking an Indian dialect, some of them. It's real interesting. And then the company we hire is the same that my dad did since '83. He helped a wonderful man. I won't say their name, but, and so he now has many employees, and I think I asked about E-Verify, and he said, yes, all of mine are E-Verify. So you've got green cards. You've got, one lady said she got a passport in Mexico City before she came here. We need to provide options to be legal, because I even went to a baby shower here with Muslim country, and people didn't show up. I think we're in denial as to what world we're in right now. San Bernardino is a reason people were scared. I mean, they really went in and killed 14 people having a baby shower. We've been attacked. There were two countries, if not three, that have declared war. The times have changed. We've got, it's, of course, Iran, confusion there. After a Moscow bomber hit the presidential palace, starting 40 years of war in Afghanistan, and that was partly for gas and oil. So I don't want to get off, but there's North Korea, Iran, and of course ISIS. We can't be in denial. My major concern is running public schools with kids being exposed to illegal drugs. That's where it needs to be a safe haven for teachers, for students, for families. It's happening. Gangs, we got good police department, thank God. And illegal traffic abductions are very serious in Central Valley. The Episcopal Church is working with that. I was a cradle Christian. Anyway, and so I think we're in denial as to reality, and there are words, yes, we're a nation of immigrants, but it needs to be legal. And we're in war times. It hasn't been declared by US, but other nations have declared war against us. We've got to protect our borders. Sinaloa, drug trafficking has been caught at the border. Do you really want the students to be exposed to those drugs? One day I had a student light a match, the 7th grade. He was a truant family. I had a student go to the principal, and I was glad the principal protected us. Another time I reported, because my credentials said I'm supposed to report if there's any abuse. I reported this girl came in with a black and blue eye like had been kicked. And the principal was wanting to be ambitious, didn't want problems at her school. And so it was hushed up. 2 years later, there was a prostitution ring across the street. I mean, we can be legal. So I would just ask that you say that there are options to be legal. We want to welcome everybody, of course, but have confidential ways that they can be legal. There's a green card. Get a passport in Mexico City until you can. People like me, teach them. I taught U.S. citizenship. Then they gave me 100 questions and with the answers. I said, I'm a teacher. I can't just tell people the answers to the questions. So it is so easy to get citizens in Santa Ana if they really want to. So, I mean, they were and then people are buying a driver's license in Santa Ana. I lived there 15 years. My husband taught for 39 years in public schools, and we love the profession. Yes, I see your good hearts, but I think we need to really face the reality of the times. And please consider an amendment that we're going to have a confidential way for them to become legal. Green card, whatever, visa, get a passport, Mexico City.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Alex Oliferis, I live in Lodi. First of all, how many minutes of discussion do we have on this resolution? In my opinion, this is a waste of taxpayer money. Waste of taxpayer money when you ought to be discussing about educational matters. This is not an educational matter. First of all, what does this resolution really mean? The board is engaging in federal law. It's a feel-good resolution. Really, it does nothing. What are you teaching students, first of all? That breaking the laws is all right? Is that the lesson we're teaching our students today? Breaking the law is great? Because last time I checked, you need an ID to buy cigarettes. You need ID to buy alcohol. And you need to be over 21 to go to the bars. So what are we really teaching kids here? That breaking the law is bad? And by the way, my family are immigrants, but they came here illegally with papers. Yes, papers. They came here legally. Wow, what a concept. There is ways to get to this country legally. And I speak 2 or 3 languages, by the way, and I've been to Mexico, and I've been to Europe. And if you need to travel overseas, yes, you need a passport these days. And by the way, pretty soon, you need a passport to travel to Nevada by airplane. You'll need a passport to travel to the state of Washington, because like previous lady said, it's the times. Things are happening. And by the way, I don't know if you saw the news today, the NSA and the CIA and the federal agencies can hack into anything. They can hack into your phone. Heck, they could see you on your computer and they could see you on your own smart TV. So what are you really hiding here? Nothing. It's a feel-good resolution. I know the concerns. My family were immigrants, but they came here legally. That's a main fundamental difference in the wording. See, wording is everything. Immigration. But do you know how you're offending a lot of legal immigrants that are coming to this country legally with papers, and they're taking their time? And I have many friends and family that took the time and the effort and the money to come here and file papers and do it the right way. But what are we teaching our students here? This is the main issue. Breaking a law? Are we breaking laws now? Is this the key? And by the way, if you really want to protect students, why didn't you oppose Senate Bill 277, which mandated parents to vaccinate their kids against their will? By doing this, you are injuring kids with Robert De Niro out of vaccine safety here, talking about this, because it's leading to increased cases of autism and injured kids. And when you having these vaccines of mercury, are you protecting the kids really? Really? You're not protecting the kids, really. Thank you. So I urge you to vote against this resolution. Come to sense. Use common sense here, not emotion. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Greg Gehring, and I'm a resident of Lodi. I'm also a taxpayer, and I wish to speak out in opposition against this resolution. Try to make my comments brief. If what you're saying, Board Member Castle and the other board members, that everything that is in this resolution is already law and policy, then, and I want to state that if it's already law and policy, and law really is colorblind. It's not a discrimination issue. The law is colorblind. And if that is already law and policy, then there really is no reason to pass this resolution. And it appears to me that the main thrust for this resolution perhaps is in response to this country's new administration's attempt to enforce the laws of this country against not every illegal immigrant in this country, but especially against those who have broken the law, especially against those who have committed serious crimes and those who are suspected of terrorist activity. And if the reason for passing this resolution is in response to that, and that seems to be the thrust of it, then what you're really doing is sending a message to the residents of Lodi, perhaps especially to the students, that this board is taking a position in favor of illegal immigration, is taking a position against this administration's attempt to enforce the law against those who have committed crimes, against those who are suspected of terrorist acts. And if that's what's happening here, and if that's the politics behind it, then I would ask that you think twice about that. The law is here to protect all of us. We need to develop a healthy respect for the law, and we should instill a healthy fear of the law in our students. We shouldn't be emboldening our students to be lawbreakers. If truly what's expressed in this resolution is already law and policy, there's no need to pass a resolution except as a political statement against the current administration's attempt to enforce the laws against those who've committed serious crimes, not against all immigrants, illegal immigrants in this country, but against those who've committed serious crimes, against those who are suspected of terrorist activity. I would urge you to not make that political statement, not make a political statement in favor of illegal immigration, against the enforcement of the laws in this country, and vote against this resolution. Thank you. Thank you.
Board, my name is Jim Shoemaker, resident of Lodi. I'm speaking in opposition to this resolution also. And I come from immigrants. They happened to come in 1670 and 1680. Somebody had to build this nation. And in building this nation, a lot of people died and sacrificed for it. We need to uphold the laws that we have, and as this board, as this committee here understands, your duty is to the taxpayers of this county and this district. That's your first duty. You're spending hundreds of millions of dollars. Our job is to educate our children. Our children are here either legally or, as what I'm hearing, numerous illegals. Their parents were irresponsible in how or why they came. That isn't a concern. The concern is what is already on the law and already on the books. You've already mentioned that. All this is already covered. This is strictly a political statement. And I hear that we're really not doing that from what I'm hearing. You know, 60 or 70 years ago, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and 18-year-olds were storming the beaches of Normandy. I'd be scared to death to send half of these kids into anything today. I own businesses. It's hard enough. We need to focus on education and not on this foolishness of trying to teach children that breaking the law, whatever, is okay. We need to stand up, stop doing this. You always on the books to cover this. Make them feel safe, then reiterate that right now,
what Mr. Heverly said is already there, that we don't have the records, your district doesn't have the records. Okay, fine, well then there's nothing that can happen to them. But right now, this strictly is a foolish attempt, and your duty is to the taxpayers of this county, community. Thank you.
My name is Leonard Robert. I'm not a speaker. I am an immigrant. I came here in 1960. I was 19 years old when I came here. And I loved this country. I fell in love in this country. And everywhere in the old country where I came from. And the ones I was born in, I got kicked out of it. And I wonder, you Americans, you better watch out what you're doing. Because one of these days, you're gonna lose a country. And then you're gonna find out what it is. I came here in 1960. And like I say already, I love this nation. And I will die for this nation. And I don't discriminate, because my own son married a Japanese girl, and her parents were born in Japan, and they came legally here. I came here legally. I've been fed when I came here. Even the FBI was asking me questions when I worked the first job I had in the shipyards, because that was that time that we had problems with Vietnam already. I retired from the Stanford University as a machinist. It's this nation that I love this nation, and I'm pretty well off. I'm not rich, but I'm well off. But you are all educators here. And the thing is, what you're doing here, you're teaching the kids how to cheat. Why don't they come in this nation legally, just like me? You are educators. So you are agreeing, you're telling the kids it's okay to cheat. But if you love to cheat, you vote for it. If you are against cheating, vote against it. This is my, thank you very much.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Robert Wilson. I live in the Lodi School District. And I came here tonight because I really hate some of the things that are going on these days with the balkanization that's happening in this country, where people are being balkanized into groups, special interest groups, racial groups, and other types of groups. As far as I'm concerned, if you're here legally, you're an American. I don't care where the hell you came from. You're an American. I'm married. I'm a native-born Californian, like an American, born here in California. And it's just what the schools are really lacking these days is civic education, especially concerning constitutional law and the meaning of the Constitution of the United States of America. Because people are really ignorant, especially kids coming out of our high schools today are so ignorant. You ask them the most basic questions about constitutional law, they cannot tell you anything about it. They're ignoramuses, absolutely stupid. And you know, this is, despite what one of the trustees said here concerning the Supreme Court decision, that Supreme Court decision does not abrogate federal law or the U.S. Constitution, which specifically says that authority for immigration is held with the federal government. The federal, you have no legal authority to pass policy concerning immigration or immigration law or immigration enforcement, none whatsoever. And you're saying, as several other speakers have said, you're sending a very bad message to our youngsters, which is that if you like this law, don't worry about it if you don't like it, because you don't have to pay any attention to it. You can just ignore it over the year. Whereas if U.S. citizens who are obeying the law make even the slightest indiscretion in most cases, they'll get arrested, they'll get sent to jail. Instead of getting a free pass and saying, oh, well, I'm sorry, I'm all in favor of immigration. I'm in favor of legal immigration. And it's disrespectful, especially for other citizens who are coming to this country, sometimes have to wait 10 or 15 years to get approval to get into this country legally. It's unbelievably disrespectful that you just jump the fence, say, hey, I'm here, I want amnesty, I want to be a citizen. It's just not right. You need to turn down this resolution and throw it in the scrap bin where it belongs. Thank you very much.
Good evening, school board, Mr. President, Mr. Honorable Superintendent Kathy Washer. I attended last meeting, school board meeting, and you guys heard my reasoning and support towards the resolution. And I'm more than thankful for all of you and your support for the resolution, and as well as the community support for the resolution. We forget the migrant community of East Lodi and many other parts of Lodi. Many families of the migrant community also are taxpayers. They also contribute to schools. They contribute. They are a powerful force in the economy, especially here in California. So this resolution is definitely something that will affect that community, and a community that isn't always heard. One of my teachers, like say Ms. Dugish, one of my most, I admire her very much for her powerful words that she has given me, and powerful, wise, inspirational, sorry, I'm so sorry. She has moved me to stand up for students, for my community, because of recent administration stuff. But however, we must be the voice, have the power to speak up. So therefore, I ask you all, because they may have not chosen to cross the border. Their parents may have chosen for a better life for them. So therefore, I ask you, please be in support of this resolution. Thank you.
I think I spoke at our last meeting. Can I ask that we scroll to the top part of the resolution for a moment? I think it's important to know that, yes, this is a resolution. It's standing up and stating some facts to give us as teachers, our administrators on school sites, and the superintendent to deal with the legal issues in a proper way. But what this also does is empower us to, yes, have those courageous conversations on our campus. Do we know when a child is hurting? Sometimes. Do we know when a child is in fear? Sometimes. But this gives us the basis for that conversation. It is not changing any law. It is not changing any mandates. It is giving a voice, and this resolution affirming what we have as a district. We are a diverse group of teachers, administrators, special ed teachers, speech therapists, psychologists in our district. We are the voice of our children. Please give us some help, pass this resolution so that we can continue the dialogue of this is a school, whether you're here in North Stockton or Lodi, that it is safe when you are on campus. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, students, did you want to make a comment or just wait for the vote? Okay. Okay, very good. All right, I'll bring it back to the board. Board members?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I move that we approve resolution 2017-19. before I do that, I want to just mention about fear. You know, you guys know some students that have fear. Many moons ago, it doesn't happen now. I was in the 6th grade. My primary language is Spanish. Primary language is Spanish. That's what we spoke at home. I go to school. It says no Spanish spoken on the campus. I got caught with a little guy next to me talking in Spanish. Teacher grabs me right here, takes me over to the fountain, gets some soap, puts it in my mouth, and here I am, spitting it out. My fear was speaking in Spanish at school, okay? That's not good. So this resolution for me is uptown.
Motion.
Mr. President? Yes, Ms. Freitas. Mr. President, this resolution is no waste of time. When you are talking about discrimination, when you are talking about intimidation, and when it's taking place on our campuses, then that's something that affects education. And we know education makes our community better. Strongly disagree that this is a waste of time. Also, I do not know how we can have a teachable moment on our campuses if our kids do not walk in the door. We have to have our parents, of our students, be courageous enough and know that it's safe to come to our campuses and bring their kids into our classrooms. So we cannot have these teachable moments, we cannot have these discussions without this type of resolution. We've also heard many things about politics and the definition of the term. And after the meeting, I'll be more than happy to share a humorous one with you. But I learned several years after joining the board that the root of the word politics comes from policy, that we are policymakers. And that's exactly what we are. We're elected by you to make policy, to give it to our one employee, the superintendent, and have her carry it out. And I can think of no better policy for tonight than this board to be a clear and concise message that our schools are a safe haven for all of our students. So I would encourage all the board members to support this resolution.
Yeah, another comment was made also that we have a duty to, we were elected to support taxpayers. That's partially true. Yeah, but I think I have more of a duty to students. I was elected because my goal was to whatever makes students achieve what is good for students, not necessarily what's really good for a taxpayer. So this resolution, I think, is in fact good for students, and so I'm supporting it.
Okay, we have a motion that was made by Mr. Nava. Sorry, Ms. Castle, it was seconded by Mr. Neely first. So thank you anyway, appreciate it. Oh, okay. You're in. You're second. Okay, student preferential vote.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you so much. Board members. See if we can have that. Oh,
I don't have that.
oh, there it is. Scroll up.
There we go. Got it.
Motion passes 5-2. If you will indulge me, I just want to make a clarifying statement, and really, there's so much confusion and such a wide variety of what this means. It's been stated by several board members, several of the audience, and it is noteworthy that we as a board and we as a district will follow the state and federal laws. Some people contacted me, thought it was something different. No, we will comply with state and federal law. Okay, let's moving on to personnel matters. Board members?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I want to move that we pass this personnel matters, but I want to state something. There's 22 management and teachers retiring this year on this. And it's you know, you talk about hardship on teachers and shortage of teachers. It could get us deeper in the hole. And we will, I know our superintendent will do everything possible to resolve that resolution. Okay. I move that we approve the personnel matter.
Okay. You have seconds for that? Okay, very good. Thank you. Students who do not vote on personal matters, coming back to the board. And the motion passes 7-0. Communications, student reps, thank you for waiting. But hearing you is worthwhile, so please, feel free. Who's first?
Good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. Just think I want to congratulate the boys soccer for being the TCAL champions. Also, boys and girls wrestling, they both won TCAL's section champions, and the girls wrestling placed third in state. We also have a spirit week going on right now. So our Monday is Jock Day, Tuesday versus Greasers, Wednesday Comfy versus Classy, Thursday City versus Country, and Friday Pink versus Black, which is our boys versus girls rally. Then also I wanted to state that the Central Valley Regional Science Bowl team will be attending nationals in Washington, D.C. in late April. And then also just that students have been started selecting their courses for the 2017 and 2018 school year.
Great, thank you so much. You're up. Go ahead, thank you.
Good morning, good morning, oh my God, good evening.
Okay, we'll stay till after.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. This week at Bear Creek, we're having our International Spirit Week. Monday was Disney Day. Today was Tourist Day, or Tacky Tourist Day. Tomorrow, the freshmen will dress up as a Western style, sophomores as tropical, juniors as celebrity, and seniors as businessmen. Thursday is Time Travel Day, and Friday is We Are the World, which is Cultural Day. Another thing to mention is that on Monday, Disney Day, Bear Creek is known as one of the high schools in Stockton that's known for the spirit and all the diversity that we have. So what was really intriguing was that a student from, I believe it was Cesar Chavez, decided to dress up with us on our Spirit Day, even though he's in a different district and in a different school. So it showed that our spirit was really contagious. Yeah. Also, this Thursday we have our International Carnival, and that's when all the clubs on campus will be selling all of their food and anything that is relating to the cultural background of their club. On Friday, we have our International Rally. We have two shows. This is the first year we'll be doing this. We'll have a 4:30 show and a 7:30 show. There will be $7 ticket, or $7 at the door and $5 for pre-sale. That is up until Thursday. Also, my Rachel's Challenge group, where they are recognizing all of the custodial workers for their hard work. And also for our speech and debate, we've had 3 students that took first place in their event, 2 that tied for second place, and 1 that double qualified in international extemporaneous. And also for Science Olympiad, we had 3 students who took gold, 2 students who took silver, 6 students who took bronze in all of their events. And the silver team finished in 8th place amongst 19 high schools. Our girls soccer team was first to win league, and they went to playoffs for the first time. Our girls basketball was second in league, and they won their first playoff game. 2 girls in our girls wrestling team, they both qualified for state. And 5 boys for the boys wrestling team, all all represented BC at the SJS Masters Tournament. Upcoming activities, events that we have in the months of April and May, we have prom, election for new student government positions, our goodbye rally, our senior day, and graduation.
Great, thank you very much. Sounds like a lot of excitement at both campuses.
Mr. Everly,
Yes.
I just want to mention that, you know, it's interesting. We have a championship in girls soccer and they have a championship in girls. We got to remember there are two different leagues.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's important. I had another question for the young lady, Jessica. Jennifer. Sorry. Do you have a Tokay Hall of Fame at your school?
Yeah, I believe so.
You do?
I think, well.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just asking.
But I think there was like, I saw some like plaques on the wall, something, I don't know.
Okay, because the reason I'm saying that, my gosh, every time I read the newspaper or some type of news article, Tokay is in the news, and I want to acknowledge that they just appointed, Governor Brown appointed Gus Barrera as a judge for San Joaquin County, and he is a graduate from Tokay. So you gotta, and also you gotta remember that Tokay was the North Stockton area school for North Stockton. So remember that when Tokay was built, and then there was only two schools in Lodi. Lodi High and Tokay High.
So they weren't that, they're not that old.
Okay.
I am.
Very old. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you again, ladies, for your presentations. It's always good to hear what's going on at our schools. Due to the hour, please feel free to stay, or please feel free to leave. Up to you. Okay. And again, thank you. Employee groups. Who's? I see two.
Well, good evening, President Heverly, members of the board, Dr. Washer, visitors, which have dwindled due to the hour, I think. But I'd like to speak tonight about some of those members that were here earlier and those few that have stuck it out at this late hour. I'd like to talk about each day. Each day, teachers come to school ready to tackle the job. They are there early to prep lessons, check for updates on students, fill out paperwork for SSTs, IEPs, enter scores into computer system that hopefully works, prepare copies, and maybe have an early morning conference with a parent. Teaching is a job that is critically important, but extraordinarily complex. That job includes differentiated instruction, how to upload assignments in a computer system, use technology to teach those lessons, prepare ELD lessons for each level with visuals, sentence strips activities where they will engage discussions at each level with each student, all while they're attending to classroom management of those not sitting in their small group at that time, while trying to solve tech problems from afar. Making sure that students attend to work at their level, to help students leave to and from interventions as they may need things such as speech or resource, or attend a room to see the counselor. They also make sure that first aid is needed and is done in the classroom to keep everyone learning. And they are continuing to assess, reflect mindfully while they are preparing in their head for the next lesson. Teaching can be joyful and energizing. To see mastery skills from learning the letters of the alphabet to corresponding sounds, to seeing a group complete a physics project and explain the theories, or a student excited to solve chemistry or calc problems, or have class engaged in discussions over novels, or just witness the joy of mastery and understanding. Times, teaching is also heartbreaking. Injuries, both physical, skin knees, to those social, emotional, as we've discussed tonight. As those teachers, they guide students through life lessons of now not just how to make a friend, but how to keep a friend. The struggles in academic areas, overcoming hurdles, learning disabilities, how to help parents through the educational process, and how to help meet the needs of those students when they may admit to you as a teacher that they face those same struggles as a child themselves and maybe didn't finish their education. We also help students through grief, despair of loss, from family to kinds of separations, some of which were spoken of tonight, and I think you could see the pain that still lingers after time. But also to the trauma that our students witness in their own neighborhoods. Not necessarily a victim of that violence, but a witness to it. That's the charge that we are given as teachers. And really, it's like no other. These professionals come early, they stay late. I recently read that teachers on average put in a 52-hour week. Ask any family member of a teacher, and the odds are that they would tell you it is many more than 52. As we've discussed topics of importance at the bargaining table, we ask you to show your support to the teachers, from prep equity for primary teachers to a valuable, meaningful, appropriate professional development, invaluable collaboration time. Teachers need you to make those hard decisions on how to make teaching for Lodi a financially sound decision for them. We have looked at the numbers and we believe we should be able to see a contract ratified soon, this year, by end of year, we hope. Please, I ask you, thinking of those things that a teacher is in charge of, please show that support at the bargaining table. Keep LUSD teachers in LUSD. Support an agreement to a contract soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Do we have any other employee group representatives who'd like to speak? Oh, I didn't see Deborah. Okay. All right, very good. Okay, board members, who's up?
Okay, I got it.
Please, go ahead.
One of the places I went this last month was to Lincoln Tech and participated in the mock interviews, which I've done for the last several years. I know that I think Bonnie was there, and I heard George was there, and Ron was there also throughout the day. So that's a great program they have over there. Did you guys get a?
Yes.
Oh, shoot. I thought they just gave one to me.
You're special.
No, it's a great program, and I'm always impressed with how well prepared the students are for those interviews. Also went to Lodi High School's WASP committee meeting. It was, I guess, the first day introductory meeting, and I also ran into Bonnie and Joe there at that meeting. It was real positive. The staff had a very positive in how about the school, about Lodi High School. One of the things that one of the committee members asked, which was close to my heart, was what kind of access do the students have to electives? And being an elective teacher and teaching accounting and that kind of stuff, it made me happy to hear that the WASP committee was interested in that kind of stuff. So hopefully I'm sure they'll do well. Lodi always has.
Very good. Any other board members?
Yeah.
George, yes.
Yeah, Gary's right about that mock interview. I'll tell you what, the thing I was most impressed with were the kids. They were unbelievable.
Very impressive.
I'd ready to hire them. I didn't have a job. I'd ready to hire them right there. You know? I'm going to talk about a committee meeting that I went to because it's not a board advisory committee. It's a substitute committee. We went to, and we had our first meeting on March 2nd. It went really well. It took us a while. I mean, we talked around and round and round before we finally kind of started centering in on some things that might help. One of the things that came up was Mike had pointed out, he was there at the meeting, Kathy too. Mike pointed out that, and he used the number 20%. Now, I don't know, you know, I'm not going to hold him to that. He said only 20% of those who actually sign on continue to sub with us after 1 or 2 assignments. So that started, you know, ringing true here. Okay, so if that's the case, then what we need to do is we need to do something to keep those others here. We need to keep them participating and continue as a substitute. And one of the things we talked about was a support system for new subs, which I think is a really good idea. Kathy even mentioned, I think it was a great idea, that could be a teacher specialty at a school, which would be to help the new subs. I think that's a fantastic idea. But also maybe one of our our advisors here, what are our trainers?
Coaches?
Coaches, there we go.
It's late, we got it.
Good, yeah, I'm tired, let me tell you. But one of our coaches maybe should do that job. We have to, it takes a lot to become a sub. It really does. You've got to pass the test, you've got to go through all the paperwork to do it. That means they want to be one. If they're only sticking around for 1 or 2 assignments, that means that they've not been properly introduced on how to be a sub. Being a sub is a tough job. So I would suggest, and that's one of the things that the committee's going to work on, I want to let you know that that's one of the things we're looking at is doing that. I also think, I thought after we left the meeting, we need to go back and try to get those 80% paying to get the credential and are not teaching. We need to get, you know, try to data mine that group and get them back. Another thing I found out is I was doing some research this weekend. And I think I sent you guys, everybody, a copy of that. If there is a career substitute credential, which allows teachers to teach for 60 days in a single class, not the normal 30, under the 30-day emergency permit. It's called a career credential. And to qualify for that, you've got to be a substitute. You have to be a substitute with Lodi for 3 consecutive years and have taught a minimum of 90 days during each one of those years and have a recommendation from Lodi. So I think that's something that we really need to look at and go back there. And I talked to Dr. Washer. She said they tried it once, got one person interested. We signed up, got one person?
That person was already set.
Yeah, but did we sign them up to be a career sub?
No, we don't sign them up. They pay the CTC.
You know, that's where we got to be different. That's where we may want to come back and say, if you'll, you know, commit to being the professional sub, we'll go ahead and pay for your credential and you know, kick up the salary a little bit on that. Because we need committed long-term subs. If we can get them for 60 days rather than 30, who knows, you can kind of stretch that 60 days to 75 or 80, you know? If you can get it up there at 92 and a half, you got it for half a year. So anyway, we're working on it, and I'll have more to say about that at another time. That's all I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Bonnie, Joe, Joe? I'll make it brief. Lincoln Tech interviews, you're right, it was phenomenal. A lot of things I'm going to say, I'm just going to highlight them real quick because some of them had already been mentioned. The lunch at Vinewood School by the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade SDC kids. is a real hoot. I mean, those kids do a great job. The boys had a little Italian mustache, you know, stereotypical, whatever. Luigi, you know. It was really cute. But it's always a good time, and they're really into it. Last year, my wife and I were sitting there talking to some other people while we're having lunch, and one of the boys kind of walked up to the table, looked at me, and he goes, "Oh, you're still here? Well, we're leaving," because they were packed. I mean, so you had to kind of hustle out quickly. It was full when you were there. Totally enjoyable. Ag Venture, wow, what a program and what a system they had. Parading those kids through the different colors and the variety of what they see, anything from beekeeping to food to it's amazing. Wonderful event. Dr. Washer had mentioned the Science Olympiad for the middle and high schools, which was last weekend. That was quite enjoyable, and it's great that we've got Tokay High and Lodi High both advancing to the state level, and which is April 1st, and then we also have middle school Elkhorn and Lodi Middle are going to be advancing to state also, which is quite exciting for them. Now, the event was actually held at McNair once again, and I do want to do a little shout out to the staff at McNair, their custodial staff. When you get that many kids there, it can make a mess, but they just took it in stride, and they did a great job. And if you got kids trouncing in and out of that school with their money, yeah, it was quite something. So there'll be an opportunity for everybody. Luckily this year we had elementary division. That will be on the 18th of March. And again, it'll be at McNair, so it's close. Pop in, see the variety of things that they do. There's building events, study events, problem solving. And what's so nice about it is that it shows where the kids' talents are. They can naturally gravitate to what they're interested in. And actually watching them put their hands on it, boy, that really sparks them. And again, I'd like to thank Tokay High for sponsoring Science Bowl. And again, their staffs let us use their rooms. The custodial staff was right there to help us close up the rooms and move into the theater. It's a great event. And again, it was that students will be representing this region in Washington, D.C. So that is quite an event, and I know at least one other board member is thrilled about that. And also a reminder quickly that this Saturday is, what Dr. Washer had said, is the STEM Festival, NorCal Science and Technology Festival at Tokay High. Let your kids know, let your students know, it's free. They can come in and they're hands-on. They can touch all kinds of stuff, build things. It's really great. And that is from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So if you want, maybe the newspaper can put it in the paper. I don't know, just a thought. So, I know you guys do it for us all. You're great. And that's it. Any other board members? If not, we shall move on. Superintendent, anything else?
I just want to make one comment, Mr. Heverly. Concern was expressed earlier about Claremont and their intervention teacher. I just want to let the board know that as soon as we found out about that, we were talking about it, and it had already been taken care of. So just want to reassure you that that's taken care of.
So taken care of as in they'll be full-time.
Correct.
Very good.
That's good. Fulfillment center, or email addresses was not, but you go to, it's right there.
Yeah.
Everything is there, phone numbers, name addresses, website, everything's there.
Okay, communications. Alrighty, we now have our reports. The first report will be on STEAM activities.
We have 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Wait, a lot of people, a lot of time. Everybody full time.
No longer than second in the report.
How about that?
I run the stopwatch over here. Ready?
We have a very interesting report update for you tonight. So we're bringing you an update, Ms. Shirley Cunningham and I, tonight about the work that our STEAM committee has done and what progress we're moving forward with. So I'm going to turn it over to Shirley, and she promises to talk fast, but it is you're going to see some, I think, some very exciting and innovative things going on with Lodi Unified. And we're gonna be shameful and put plugs for ourselves. One of the something unique that any district, no other district is doing. So I'm gonna just set that up, and I'm gonna turn it over to Shirley.
Pique the interest.
Good evening. So this is our STEAM update for you. We started our STEAM committee the beginning of last year by request of the board, and so we've done quite a bit. This is our, these are our committee members. We have quite a few committee members. The bulk of them are science teachers, but we do have computer science teachers like George Kukas from Lodi High, and a math teacher, Juan Garcia Reyes from McCullough. We also have middle college involved with Alethea Langone joining us. So we have a very large group of people. We've had 5 meetings so far. We're working on our 6th meeting. So we started meeting last year, and we've met a couple of times this year. Through our meetings, the committee has defined STEAM for Lodi Unified School District. STEAM education is an interdisciplinary approach which focuses on science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics while integrating rigorous academic concepts to solve real-world problems. And I know you see that it's STEAM, but the committee was very adamant about including the arts in STEAM for Lodi Unified. They've also, what? I'm sorry. Excuse me.
It's kind of a natural thing. If you're going to be doing engineering, it's kind of artistic anyway.
I agree. They also developed a mission and vision. So Lodi Unified School District community promotes the integration of STEAM practices to establish an innovative problem-solving culture, what STEAM is all about. And then a vision to create innovators and problem solvers. They developed 3 goals that they would like to achieve as a committee to develop and use STEAM practices to create innovators and, again, problem solvers, to increase STEAM elective course offerings with focus on tech and engineering, and to increase STEAM experiences through field and extracurricular experiences or activities. So it took some time, but I was able to gather all of the STEM or STEAM type classes that are offered through Lodi Unified, and these are offered at our middle schools. So we have Delta Sierra, Elkhorn, Houston, Lockford, Lodi Middle, McCullough, Millswood, and Murata. And so at Delta Sierra, we have quite a few different classes offered as electives for students. We also have CanSat, MESA, and exobiology. CanSat is a program that was brought into the district at the beginning of last year by a company called Magnitude.io. And they have a can that fits, a satellite that fits in the size of a soda can, and that can be used to collect different types of data like barometric pressure, acceleration, particulates in the air, CO2, things like that. We have the CanSat program operating at all of our middle schools and at all of our high schools with at least 1 teacher. And then we have about 5 or 6 elementary school teachers in the 6th grade, 5th and 6th grade, that are also participating in that program. Our exobiology experiment is one of the more exciting things that we're doing. We currently have a mustard seed plant growing on the International Space Station. It was taken up there on a SpaceX rocket a couple of Sundays ago. And we also have 15 of those same plants growing in 15 different classrooms around the district. So the students will be comparing the growth of a plant in microgravity versus the growth of a plant on Earth. Hopefully we'll be able to get that plant back with some seeds that we can grow here on Earth to see if microgravity also affects the plant once you plant it again on Earth. We have quite a few teachers. Well, like I said, we have 15 teachers involved in the exobiology experiment. We also have a couple of STEM programs running in the district. We have Project Lead the Way and we have STEM 101. Both of those programs have an engineering foundation approach, and then they use that engineering idea to do other activities, maybe medical technology or robots, things like that. And like I said, MESA and Science Olympiad, we have that running throughout the district, as President Heberly had said. We do pretty well with Science Olympiad. MESA is very similar in the way the kids do the activities. Do you guys have any questions? I'm tired. Here's our high school overview. So we have Bear Creek, Lincoln Tech, Lodi High, McNair Middle College, and Tokay. We have also Project Lead the Way. So you see a lot of the similar things running at the high schools that you do at the middle schools. One of our goals is to figure out how we can create a pathway for students if they start something in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, that they can move into high school and still continue doing something that they like as an elective class with the STEM idea behind it. Oh, and I forgot about the rockets. We also have a rocket program running since last year in the district with Magnitude.io. And some of our teachers are going to be competing, well, some of our students will be competing in the Team America Rocketry Challenge. We also have our rocket launch coming up March 12th, the day after the NorCal Science and Tech Festival. We're going to be out at Snow Ranch or Orbis Cattle Company in Farmington, where our students will be able to launch low power and high power rockets. And the students that launch the high power rockets will be able to become level 1 certified. And then they can move on to level 2 once they are 18. Magnitude.io, the company that's doing the rockets with us, will also be at the NorCal Science and Technology Festival with a booth for kids to build rockets. And then they can take that rocket out on Sunday if they wanted to and launch it. This is a list of the elementary schools that are involved in the CanSat and exobiology activities. So Julia Morgan, Mosher, Vinewood, Beckman, and Wagner Holt. They work with our 7th through 12th grade teachers as well as the owners of Magnitude.io to deliver lessons to their students. I touched on this a little bit. Our goals are basically for student transition. So we have a lot going on in the district that's related to STEM, a lot of really good things that are going on. But we talked about as a committee how these things transfer, how the skills are going to be able to transfer with students when they move on to the next grade level. So we're looking at streamlining options for students and bringing consistency amongst the middle schools and the high schools. So through that, the committee created a STEAM course description, and they decided that this description could also be used to guide lessons, activities, or lab planning. And so they decided the description would be STEAM courses utilize the engineering design process in a collaborative setting to solve real world problems in math, science, and ELA practices. They decided that in a STEAM class, you would not necessarily teach content standards like your ELA standards or your math standards. You would teach the practices that come with those content areas, creating an interdisciplinary approach. So the engineering design process is listed here. There are 8 steps to the engineering design process. So in the STEAM course that we would implement in Lodi Unified, the committee would suggest that it would follow the engineering design process. And the example on the next slide suggests how the math, science, and ELA practices can be addressed within the engineering design process. Although without overwhelming teachers, the committee decided that not all practices would need to be addressed all the time with every lesson. It becomes very overwhelming. And you could see how this would lead to an interdisciplinary lesson, project, or activity. So these are our science, math, and ELA practices. And I started this slide because we'll go back to it, but these are our engineering design process steps in the left-hand column, and then the content practices that are addressed in the right-hand column. So the committee sat down and said, well, if I have a teacher that's doing the engineering design process, what practices could they address at the same time? So they lined those up for the teachers. So if you see, step number 1 would be to define the problem. You could address content practice M1, S1, or E6, but you'd have to go back. Oh, okay. I'm going to push it back. That's the button. And so these are the practices again, so they'd have to just match those up, but just to show the interdisciplinary approach. The next steps for the STEAM committee are to create a Lodi Unified School District STEAM PLC to support all STEAM teachers that we have out there. When you look at all the schools, they offer quite a few classes, but it seems to be one teacher here or there because there's just not enough students or staffing to have a full day of a particular robotics course. And so sometimes the teachers that are teaching the STEAM courses feel alone, like they're just a teacher on an island. So the committee wants to support them by creating a PLC. They would also like to finalize the STEAM course description. What you saw was a rough draft. That was the product of our last meeting. And then identify all courses offered by Lodi Unified that meet the STEAM course description and mark them as so in the course catalog. So when students are choosing courses, they understand that this is a STEAM involved course. Oh.
Any questions?
Well,
Sorry,
you know,
I just wanted to ask.
seriously. Shirley, you just made the and obviously not all campuses that are listed, you know, some of them, there's only one doing it. So when you're talking about the pathways, how do we get that moving? Because, you know, there's obviously a lot of interest at Lodi Middle School. They just opened up that elective with Mr. Box. And I know talking to Millswood, there's Mr. Hendrick wants to kind of expand what's going on there. So would those things be done during the school day, or is it after school, like Lodi Middle, their robotics is after school? How do we kind of expand that and let them go from one to the other?
I believe that, like with Mr. Box at Lodi Middle, he started with an after-school program, but he's already begun to work with Tokay, so they're going to feed into Tokay, and they're working with the Tokay teachers. They brought forth a course of study that I think you approved several board meetings ago to offer their robotics and was it applied science and robotics or something like that. So they've already started to develop that pathway. It will be in the school day at Tokay. I'm not sure if they're moving it into the school day at Lodi Middle. It's kind of how their master schedule works at each of the school sites.
Sure. Was there any discussion about expanding Science Olympiad? Because of those 23 events, it's great that a child's interest or skill would guide them to kind of one of those 23 events. And it's just a great experience. Now, granted, that's all done after school. And there is a problem with Science Olympiad, is that you need a lot of coaches and a lot of help. So, you know, we only have one middle school doing it. And it would be great to expand it. You know, they'll maybe do it for a couple of years and they kind of back off, and then, I mean, it's such a natural thing, and it fits perfectly within all the STEM stuff. Did they have any discussion about that and trying to expand that to schools that don't have it, even in the elementary?
We did talk about Science Olympiad as well as Eva Mesa. They're very similar.
Very similar.
Science Olympiad years went out. And so I think it does boil down to, like you said, the time that it takes. It is an after-school activity, and finding the coaches to help you. So it was discussed. There was not a solution that the committee had come up with, but they do see value in Science Olympiad.
I take back, McCullough was there too, so. But we've got many more little schools that need to kind of go in that direction. Was there any discussion about, is the district, which would have to be during the school day, in these activities, and if so, how? Well, like CANSAT, is that during the day, is that an after school?
Oh.
You know,
It's, it depends on which one you're doing. The CANSAT is not meant to be a standalone class. It's an instrument that's used in a class while the teacher is teaching science or engineering or, I mean, we have AP environmental science teachers at Water, STAR are both using them. So it's used as a tool. Scott Heinrich is, he's doing the robotics over at Millwood, and that's a standalone course. But when you see usually the Mason, the Science Olympiad, those are the after-school extracurricular activities that the students do. So there's a myriad of approaches.
Yes, and as we're expanding those courses, it's very difficult to do some startup financially. So do we still have some funds left for that, out of that? I know we did like $1 million one-time money kind of thing, so we're still working on that.
We're supporting the school sites. We still have that fund. I can't tell you exactly how much is left in that, but we have been providing, they have been contacting us, and we purchased the items that they need for these classes.
Good, because the startup is
Yes.
tough. That's tough. Okay, that's all I've got. I can always talk to you later. Anybody else?
Yeah. I want to commend you guys on a great job. All right, it was just a couple years ago. You know, we look at you and we tell you, you know, we want STEM. No, STEAM. That's right. That's what we want. I mean, we just threw it out there. You guys took it and ran with it. You put together a heck of a program. You know, I'm really impressed, and it continues to grow, and it continues to be more interest in it. So that's because of you guys. So thank you very much on that. Now, something else. When my last teaching assignment, they made me the mock trial coach since I'm married to an attorney, and I guess that meant that I could do that.
You know,
I was qualified, yeah. So once I got into it, I found out that other schools, some of them were taking this after school extracurricular activity and turning it into a class. So we did the same thing. And STEAM after school projects can maybe be combined into a class. It could be like an introductory class or an investigation class, something like that. A class like that would really retain student interest and motivate them maybe to do better in the other classes as well. I also want to,
I thought you were saying we needed more lawyers.
Yeah, well, that's what we did.
I thought that was a point you were trying to.
Yeah. You know,
we have a shortage apparently.
Yes. So, oh yeah. The other thing that I found useful when I was teaching juniors and seniors was whatever that we were working on. I did a lot of project work, and whatever I was working on, I worked in budgets and finances as well. So you can take some of these engineering classes and give them a budget, because they're going to have that in real life too. So start working in some of that kind of stuff. Suggestions. Good. Great job.
I just want to say that I believe we are the first school district to have an experiment or growth of a plant on the SpaceX shuttle that went off, and at the.
That's great.
Usually that is only a college level thing that happens.
Yeah.
So our children are experiencing something that no other K-12 district or.
There's a Facebook.
And oh my gosh, I was just going to say that I'm sure we could find that on our Facebook page.
And I'm sure that we can put together a little video of what's going on, and because we've been sharing things around that, but we haven't quite gotten there.
Let's do a good video, get some of our kids to make a good video, and we'll put it on YouTube.
Our students already written down.
And rocket launches are pretty cool, so that would be great.
So you can come out to Star Ranch
I was
on
going to
Sunday.
ask.
I'm gonna be there, so I don't know if we're gonna get through the creeks and the water, but we're gonna try, so.
Hey, great job, Lisa. That's why you get the big bucks.
And then one other thing, I forgot, but the 6th and 7th graders that we have now, when NASA decides to send a person to Mars in around 2030, because that's what they're working towards, the students that we have in the school district that are 6th and 7th graders will be the average age of an astronaut that could be on that mission.
That's a neat message to send.
Oh, yeah.
You know? That's a great message.
About a month ago, Lodi Middle, I haven't contacted them, it's my fault, I should have. Did their first robotics competition. Does anybody know how they did? Yeah, I keep thinking, oh man, I should call them and see how they did. Because I know Mr. Box is hoping to do a little friendly competition. Just to feel, thank you so much. Sounds like you've got some good committees working well.
Yes, great teachers.
Any other questions, public, board? Okay, moving on to reports. We are now on PBIS. Stay where you are.
Yeah, I was wondering, I used to see it right
Yeah, I figure out why you guys are back here. You want to take
Just enjoying the process.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Heberly, President Heberly, members of the board, and Dr. Washer, we have Enrique Avalos and Mr. Melandro, Randy Melandro, here to share an update on our PBIS and discipline, district discipline. We also have an expert on PBIS, Barbara. I can only remember her first name. So she will be here if you have questions regarding PBIS that our experts on the end can't answer. How's that? So we're going to turn it over to our experts.
Mr. Heberly, Board, Dr. Washer. So PBIS, which stands for Positive Behavioral Intervention Supports, is a framework that takes into account things that schools are already doing, organizes them in such a way that really has an effect on creating positive environments for students. Both literally a positive environment where we want them to feel welcome, we want them to actively be kind to one another, and take the time to recognize the students that are making appropriate and good choices. And also, in a literally positive way, instead of telling the student, hey, don't run in the hallways, instead be proactive and say, make sure we're being safe and walking in the hallways. 2 out of our 3 cohorts, the entire district is divided into 3 cohorts. You can see cohort 1 is predominantly North Stockton schools, and cohort 2 is then geographically slightly north of that. Cohort 1 is currently completing the 2nd year of training, which is Tier 2 student-focused supports, and it's really looking at perfecting a check-in, check-out system. It's identifying the students who aren't benefiting from school-wide interventions and taking an opportunity to create a relationship with them, with somebody on campus. It doesn't have to be their teacher, it doesn't have to be their administrator, but somebody checking in and checking out with them, checking up in the morning. How was your night? Did you have good breakfast? Do you need anything? How was your day? One kind of there, 2 did okay. Cohort 2 is completing the 1st year of training, which is the school-wide, and this is what I like to call the super fun part of PBIS, because it's when you're building your culture, you're taking your mascot, making it a part of your everyday language, you're creating a series of instructions for teachers, students, and staff that we're all using the same language, and really taking a look at how we can make kids feel welcome and how we can make our staff feel welcome. One of the biggest parts of that is developing a school-wide matrix of positively stated expectations, taking those expectations, turning them into active lessons, and then trying to have a good time with it, with recognition systems. You know, you have your Orca skill card, you got your gold ticket from, you got your beautiful fun stuff being done in hope of increasing student engagement and get those kids to be happier. So just some sample referral data, because it does come down to what effects it's had. Now, the curious thing is when you look at cohort 1 and cohort 2, those are the schools that I believe when the cohorts were selected, it was because of the need there's no court fees, so I'm looking at, Sunday is a flat little line across the last several years. So, but you will notice, now taking into account we're only about 3/4 of the way through the year, so those numbers are reflective of the first day of school to when I ran this about a week ago. But you'll notice even with that, you'll see a downward trend in referrals at cohort schools as students are being.
Those are pretty impressive numbers there. You look at cohort 1. Now, I've got to ask.
Sorry, it's time to make my kids their lunches. That doesn't silence any sounds.
I've got to ask, I mean, why are they so low? I mean, are we not, I have a fear that we're not sending kids out of class that need to be sent out of class. That's my concern, okay? That those kids are in the classes, disrupting those classes. That's my fear.
So part of what this is capturing is a few things. Some systematic changes is how we record things, and so there's a learning curve since we're moving to electronic referral capturing. So that's why I specifically focus on disruption to funding. So total referrals might go down in a sense because of a systematic change. We are encouraging the cohort 1 schools, part of the first tier is to take the time and as a staff get together and define what's going to be a classroom managed referral and an office managed referral. And so I think as teachers are given an opportunity and staff are given an opportunity to have that conversation with one another, you start to notice things like incidences of students being sent out for lack of materials, which were being documented as defiance, and which is a good thing because we want those kids to spend more time in the seat. And the second thing is, as everyone knows, we're adopting new things. The fear of like, oh, do I write it? Do I not write it? And so we're encouraging those conversations to go on. Be clear what it is as a teacher, as a staff. What is it that you want to be an office manager role? And through the training and the process, we try to have those conversations. And knowing as a trainer to go back and continue that conversation, to look at this data and say, so, raise your hand if you didn't write a referral that you think you may have, and start to have that conversation. And empower our teachers enough to be able to have that conversation with us.
There's no penalty for writing a deferral, nothing, right? There's nothing.
No,
there's
no.
When do they write that?
Well, teachers can write a referral. If it's an immediate referral and the student needs to be sent to the office, like a fight, something significant, the students sent out, they can call the office. It varies from site to site. Some schools, their administrator goes and picks up the student. Some schools have campus security. Each group. But a teacher will in the moment after school, before school, and there's no requirement per se as to when the referrals are.
That's impressive.
Well, I share the same concern as Mr. Neely. And that is is that I've heard of instances where the child is sent to the office goes to the computer, the referral has not been logged in yet, so they send the child back to the school, back to the classroom in the same period, this is secondary, during the same period of the day. I think that sends a terrible message. So if that is the case, then it means is we need to understand that referral can be done at other times. When that child is sent out of the classroom, they're out. Somebody needs to deal with it, and then that's the next component. Who deals with it and that kind of thing. But a child does not have the right to disrupt the numbers of the other students. That is a real concern of mine that I don't want us to be. Somebody said it, let me look. Are we changing behavior or just changing consequences? Okay. That to me is the number one worry that I have about this. So when they're out, when they're sent out, that's it. You don't need to be asking questions. They were sent out. Okay. You figure that out at another time. So when somebody is saying, we're not gonna accept the student because you didn't do the referral, well, that teacher is instructing. They have to back out of their computer, go into the referral system, log it in, then go back into the instructional side of what they're doing with their computers. And so I don't want that to occur. I'm hoping that that type of activity will phase out once more training and people are getting used to the system and there's a better understanding of what that is. But anyway, I'll stop right there, but that is a real concern of mine.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
And so,
thank you, Enrique. President Heberly, members of the board, Dr. Washer. What I would like to share with you now are some overall district-wide numbers and try and do it graphically so that you can see what's happened over the last 3 years. So when we take a look at classroom referrals district-wide, we noticed they were up a little bit from 14-15 to 15-16, but we're looking at almost a 25% decrease as we look forward toward the end of this year. So district-wide, we're seeing a decrease in student referrals overall. When we take a look at ethnicity, we are overrepresented in African-American students who are being sent to the office on a referral. However, we noticed that even though our African-American students were overrepresented, they did have quite a large decrease of 8% across the board for African-American students. So that gap is dropping there, so we're seeing progress. We take a look at the next level of discipline, which is suspensions. We did have a slight increase of suspensions from 14-15 to 15-16, but this year we're on pace to have quite a bit of a decrease in that, and we're looking at an estimation of somewhere around 1,400 suspensions, which is quite a bit lower than last year as well. So the intent is finding other ways to work with students to keep them in school rather than have exclusionary discipline where they're not in class and they cannot learn. Similar trend in that we do have a decrease in African American, they're still represented, a slight decrease in white students as well, and a slight increase in Hispanic Latino students. But again, as you look at the overall numbers, they're not overrepresented as of yet. So again, keeping an eye not just on the numbers, but also on the ethnicity of students. Then moving to the highest level, this one, which is expulsion. Again, we had a small increase. We went from 76 students in 14-15 to 81 students in 15-16. Now, as you look up on the board there, we're 3/4 of the way through the school year, half of the numbers that we've had in the past. So making significant inroads in keeping our students in the classroom and working with them to try and avoid those things which would cause them to be expelled, which is part of what PBIS is all about, which is dealing with the cause, not the symptom. Again, taking a look at expulsions, we once again see that we had a large decrease in African American students, which were overrepresented. They went from 29% to 17%. So we're beginning to see that, that decrease in our overrepresented groups as well. So this slide is just kind of a synopsis of what we talked about. We do see over 3 years, we're seeing a decrease in each level of our disciplinary interventions, whether that's at the lowest level, which is teacher referral, from there to suspensions, and there to expulsions. So the idea, once again, with PBIS and other interventions is to try and be proactive with students before they get to the point where we have to be involved in exclusionary discipline.
thank you. And so our next steps is we will be conducting a school climate survey and compare results by cohort to see what student perception and staff perception is. Cohort 1 will move into Tier 3, which is intensive intervention for students. They're going to have a small team that focuses on individual students. Cohort 2 will move into Tier 2, which is the student-focused interventions I spoke of earlier. And the remaining schools, which make up Cohort 3, will begin training in Tier 1, school-wide interventions.
Randy, what was the cutoff date for the 16-17 school year?
It was about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
Randy and Enrique, now the OCR it has this report, especially on the African American.
We'll be sharing that
Very
information.
good. Yeah, I think that's actually should be shared with them because of the percentage of that. Yeah.
I guess to follow up, my first concern was, okay, they get sent out of the classroom. Where do they go? Who do they see? What gets done? Like you said, we're going for the cause, not the symptom. Who's trying to find the cause?
Well, one of the things that we are now doing and working with teachers with the online referral is to have a lot of those interventions done before they get to the office. Once they get to the office and what is meted out from the office, we now have a report in Aries that each administrator can go in and take a look by violation as well as by the disposition, what has happened to that student after that violation. So they can take a look at that as well, and that's important for us to be able to keep track of that. So whether that intervention is meeting with the counselor, whether that's a conversation with an administrator, whether that's a conversation with a parent, whether it's some other type of discipline, that's all recorded in the system. Before this year, it was difficult for site administrators to pull that out and to be able to see that and to be able to document to see if there was a pattern. Now we have the ability to do that. So we hope that that will assist us well and to try and make sure we provide a multitude of interventions for students.
And the reason I ask that is a lot of times office staffs are pretty overloaded. And so I'm just trying to figure out, okay, student X goes to the office because of disruption. Who sees him, who talks to him? Of course, whatever they did or who did gets logged in, but that's still my question. Who talks to him?
Any disciplinary referral goes to the office is dealt with by an administrator. Now, what they may do is they may work with a counselor. The disposition may be that a student, after they speak to that student, that they go to a counselor. But if it's a disciplinary referral, it's dealt with by an administrator.
That's what I was doing. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Do you feel that a lot of the teachers are handling their own discipline instead of sending those referrals to the class, to the vice principal? My experience has been, as a teacher, I handle all the discipline problems. If I'm going to send only if it's a fight or it's really crucial, then it's something else. But little minor things like disruption and disobedience, using a little profanity and that type of thing. And you can kind of stop that and don't need any referral because you can talk to these students after the class, and by that time everything is cool and they stay in the classroom and they won't do that again. Because if I send a kid that has a minor discipline problem to the VP in charge of discipline, and he sends that student back to me, I mean, it's not accomplishing what I was wanting to do as far as resolving my problem, giving them some counseling. I do a lot of the counseling, and I think that's what's happening with a lot of the teachers. If I'm wrong, tell me, because I think that's a good thing that they do that. If they're instructed to do that and not get those crucial things, of course, are automatic, is either they're going into in-school suspension or they're going to a 5-day suspension, or they're ready to be expelled.
Well, and I think that's always the intent for the teachers to work with students as much as they can without allowing the disruption of the learning process. The nice thing, and I apologize because, okay, I'm in assessment research and evaluation, someone used the term data, once again, is the ability to use Aries to see, is there a pattern of particular teacher sending particular referrals at this level?
Right.
Very easy to see at this point. It might have been difficult before when you have multiple administrators dealing with multiple referrals. Easy to see now, and then to be able to provide that teacher support if they need that support in that area. So again, very happy that we have the system that we have to be able to look at that data and to really be able to examine that and then to provide support for those teachers who need it that maybe you might not have noticed before.
but sometimes there could be one child that could really skew a teacher's. Yeah, whoever's been in the, whoever's been in the classroom is going, yes. And so, you know, it's like, okay, when is this kid gonna get it? Well, then that has to move up the chain of discipline and, you know, help that teacher and help all those other students in that classroom to progress and learn.
Right, and I agree. In those instances, that again would be as the administrator looks at that and sees that teacher, then they can see what were all the referrals that submitted, and they can see the name of that student, and they can see what's going on there. So obviously, there are going to be times when that happens, and a teacher may refer a particular student who might require more intervention than other students. But the ability to be able to see that and to notate that is now available in the system that we have, and I think that's administrators to be able to see, and for teachers to be able to see as well.
So when whatever administrator does or counselor does, they log it in, the teacher can see, oh yeah, they did help me with this and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So everybody can see it?
Right, they get that information back so they know what's happened to that student when they went to
I'm seeing heads shaking in the wrong direction.
That's the way the system is intended to work.
I don't care what the intention is of the system other than to help us. So we're going to stay with the board. If there's any other questions, comments, then I will open it to the public. So any other questions?
I'm wondering what she
says
tonight, so we can address this.
I definitely want to hear it because I see the heads. Sounds great. Let's go to the public. Michelle and other heads that we're going. Because these conversations are good to make it operationally work better. And that's what we're all after, is to make the system work better.
I have to start by saying, you know, Enrique's been very good about having time to sit down and talk about all of this that's happened, because, gosh, in the short amount of time that I've been out of the classroom, started territory for me. So what I'm relying on and the comments that I get and that I relay to Enrique and others is I think there is some inconsistencies in the ARIES system, and whether that was the rollout and training, the different formats, as it was explained at a tech meeting one time. The first format that we it was really difficult to gather that information, so we went to another format. So I don't know where it all started, but I think there is some more training that's needed for classroom teachers. It has been brought to our attention within the last week that elementary PE, music, and intervention teachers are not able to input any student information as a regular classroom teacher would. I think the knowledge of those first entries being a log of all of the instances, as Mr. Noddle pointed out, where I'm handling, you know, Johnny poking Sally with the pencil, or Johnny, you know, using profanity. I'm calling home, or I sent a note to parents. I think those pieces, and Enrique and I have talked about additional training for teachers, and, you know, he's been very open about, you know, just an invitation. And I have lots of sites where teachers you've got one teacher who knows how to do it really well, and the others are frustrated. So one teacher is one by one trying to coach the other teachers next to, because you can only pull it up for your class and the students that are on your roster. There are comments about, you know, once they input, I think so if you share file between teachers, they don't know of all of the incidents with Johnny. And that now this is escalated, that this is appearing in all of the periods. So I think there's some more training that we need to do. I think we need to keep that open dialogue, and as Enrique and I spoke tonight, teachers are feeling more comfortable calling in personally and saying, hey, this isn't really working. So I think that open door policy, let me walk through it and see how that works. And then I think it was the odd man out with PE and music and intervention. And my intervention teachers are going, yeah, we haven't been able to do anything all year. We have to write it on a piece of paper, send it to the classroom teacher. The classroom teacher does it. Well, now you've just made a bigger path and a place where some of those instances, have teachers who are frustrated. They didn't see the value in the beginning, so I would question some of those early reporting referrals as to maybe they weren't all there because of the frustration over the system or the lack of training.
First a comment, then a question. Everything I've heard about Enrique has been positive. I think how you're doing things and what you're doing, obviously, the classrooms and the sites are liking it. So keep doing it. The question is, I want to make sure I understand what you said. So I'm a social studies teacher. He's a math teacher. He had problems with Johnny's log, and so that all the teachers kind of know what to help with and to watch for. Wouldn't that be ooh, I don't like the faces I'm seeing. Oops.
Just online system we're using to capture referrals is what teachers are doing prior to a student being sent to the office. Like Ms. Oregon mentioned, I called home, I gave him attention, I had a one-on-one with the parent, I had a one-on-one with him. It's to capture that information. As an added bonus, you can then escalate an incident into a referral. And so instead of a teacher keeping a log, like when I was teaching, there was a file. Every student who started, I would start a new file, write the name of what I did. Here's a log, you bring it to your SST or IST. And a referral would then just be generated on a triplicate form, and I would submit, and I'd get my P copy back. What this is doing is eliminating that triplicate form, and it is providing an additional place for a teacher to record that log of what instances have you done. So there was, prior, when I was teaching or when I was vice principal, there was no process. I went to your class, Mr. Heavily, and told you, hey, I wrote a referral for this kid, or I told you about a referral for the kid. There was no cross-pollination there. That hasn't changed. It would be kind of cool.
But now you could do that with the computer, though.
You could, but a lot of teachers have expressed their fear that, log, I'm okay with sharing my file with you at a meeting because it's important. I'm not so sure how I feel about you looking over my shoulder. So early on, because we started about 3 or 4 schools, and it was like, what don't you not, positively stated, what things to make sure maintain from the old system to the new system. And one of the concerns was privacy, and early on I said, well, we're not going to go ahead and explore that. And so what I can do, though, is we are creating reports where we can pull stuff out and look it up, run a report, because that information being captured on those referrals is being captured in the database. And that database can talk to Aries, and so we can, that's where the escalation bonus came from. It's already in there, we can just slide it over and put it in Aries. And so the integrity of that process hasn't changed, it's just the collection step. And so the other comment that Ms. Oregon and I we discovered it the same day because 2 teachers emailed me, 2 teachers emailed her, somebody opened up a WIT ticket, it was forwarded to me, and it was, hey, if a student is not assigned to me, when I record it, where does that go? And so after about a week, and we came up with, if a teacher isn't assigned a period, and it's just how the database is set up. We're trying to find a workaround or a solution. And from my conversations with technology, Mr. Munch and Ms. Martin, it's if elementary schools were kind of built the way in Aries were built in a way secondary schools were, And so then we went and both her and I interviewed a bunch of people and said, hey, when you have a music class on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, is it Tuesday at 10 o'clock every Tuesday? The answer was yes. So if we were to get like a schedule where they would have their own roster, that'd be the most baseline way of fixing it. Obviously, that's a systematic change, takes a lot of conversations with people and principals and assistant superintendents. So we're just in the infancy of solving that problem. I do try to maintain an open door, and teachers email me, call me, text me, and it's the idea that we're in this together. We're trying to figure out what that system is. What's that going to look like? That's functional for you, functional for us, and of course the elephant in the room, the OCR, which asks us to capture this information.
So how does it go then? One of the things we were always talking about is the continuity and transition from elementary to middle to high school, so that everybody kind of can know what's going on. So all of a sudden, I'm a seventh grade teacher, and I have a student who comes to me, well, this kid is just not getting it. You know, he's very disruptive, blah, blah, blah. And if I enter that, would I be able to see what happened to him last year, so that it kind of gets the administration's radar up to go, how's he doing? Oh, he's got his head screwed on straight, everything's great. Or we kind of need to upfront this and help him out before he gets in trouble. Are we doing that transition?
So the continuum is the same as it's been before, where anything that's recorded as an office referral is recorded into Aries. They're there for the entire time the student's in. This hasn't been decided yet, but what happens to how much of the information from a day-to-day teaching, those classroom incidents, the I called home today, those things where the teacher themselves didn't feel it was enough to report to the office. Although we're reporting it now, we have to, as a organization, make that decision. What happens to that information is how much of it needs to follow just the way they always have. In triplicate form.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Okay, it's late. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, and I think that's an important thing to get ahead of the problem.
Oregon and I keep talking about is this process we started developing May of last year. Last year, the first half of the year, we had it at 3, then 5 schools, and then we started trying to train everybody. You know, as you guys know, adopting anything mid-year is very tough, and you know, we're coming up with different ideas of how we're going to make sure it's consistently trained at the beginning of next year to make sure everybody gets the exact same training. So it is an operational problem. We recognize it. Several teachers are in on, well, you should do this, you should do that. And I think we're going to come with a good solution that'll satisfy.
Great. Yeah, as long as you, like you said, keep that open door, you'll make a better product.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're investing a lot of time and into this. It sounds like it's a very open framework that you're using for your data. It's fantastic. I really would like to make sure that we don't make a mistake that we've made sometimes. And that is that we switch over to a new platform, and now we have to do all the training over again. We have to rebuild our databases and all that kind of stuff. Sounds like you've got something really good going on here. I really want us to stay with that so that we don't have to retrain teachers. And they don't have to go through the torment of being retrained again. So that's just let's try to stay with this thing.
Thank you. Any other board members of the public? Yes, please come to the mic.
My name is Arlene Hawker, and I'm a second grade teacher at Julia Morgan. And I love PBIS. I just want to say thank you, first of all. This, is one of the best things that I have tried to implement and work. And Randy, I went to the training today. It was great. Thank you. However, I do want to point out, because I've been on a PBIS team at 2 different schools now, and I don't know if you are aware of some of the deficiencies going on, because we don't always have a lot of time to communicate. And Randy is always good about quickly getting back to emails. So communication is good on your part, and I appreciate it. Enrique, and you guys are always trying to answer questions, but we don't have time to sit down and talk. And so maybe you don't know what's happening sometimes at the schools, and there's a disconnect sometimes between the teachers. And it seems like sometimes there is needing to be a buy-in. And I know this is supposed to be school or district-wide, excuse me, and get in there and implement it. And when I was at Sutherland, you know, the very first year, I was talking to Harold, you know, Mr. Brown, and he said, you know what, this just has to be what it is, and we just got to get in there and jump in. And then some of the teachers were kind of saying, well, don't we need to kind of get them to agree and convince them? And that seems natural to, you know, for someone to want to do it instead of being told you have to do this. So it made sense to try to. I saw PBIS before I came to Lodi Unified, being a brand new teacher. Came up from Anaheim for my first teaching job in Stockton at Stallworth Charter School. And man, that taught me a lot. And I am grateful to be here in Lodi now, but they were trying to implement that PBIS. So I saw it and I jumped in with 2 feet before I even heard about it from you guys. And so when you came with it, I was like, yes, this is awesome, okay. But I still had a lot to learn. But not all teachers are on board with it, and I see how tired they are. And I'm only in my 4th year of teaching now, and I am exhausted, but I love it. It's my life's work. And I see a benefit. I've seen it with a lot of the students. I just had one recently, overflow, and he's now gone, and it would have worked for him. But there was, Julia Morgan's not a Title I school. We didn't have bridge program. We have YMCA. He couldn't go to my intervention after school, sign the paperwork, but mom didn't have a car. He has to take a bus. So there's things in the way sometimes. So just trying to get the whole picture if I can.
Yes.
So thank you for listening and bearing with me. But this is the part you don't see all the time. Talk with you, Enrique, to try to get on that training, and that program was just, it went out the window because it wasn't working, and then we found out we had to buy it, and then it was just like, and I was texting you over summer, and then I went over to Julia Morgan because, you know, low girl on the totem pole, I got last pick, and I transferred over, and I'm happy at Julia Morgan, but again, I'm data analyst, and can't collect data really, but I did something at Sutherland, you know, Dad, he's gonna be 90 this year, and I was raised old school, and I love old school still. So you know what, there's nothing wrong with checking the box and keeping paperwork sometimes. However, I'm tired of paperwork some days. But when you don't have the technology, you can pick up a pencil and still keep records on a kid. You can go out to a playground and observe, and that's data. So there's a lot you can do. And said, that's great. I don't know if they did it because I left, but I put together a binder that every teacher can have in their classroom to just pull quickly because we don't have time to stop our teaching. And 6 hours a day with all the interruptions, we have 4 hours to get our lessons in quickly. So we don't have time to stop. So I appreciate your questions about the teaching has to continue. How do we do all this? So my idea was for someone to be able to quickly pull that binder, have all the student names right there in the binder. You can quickly open it. And I got this idea because when I used to be an RSP aide for children with autism, and I had to quickly keep data. It was a positive or it was a negative. It was a check mark. It was something, and nothing listed. After you got to know the kid first, the child, you have to have a relationship to know, because every student page might have something different. Some are violent. Some are just doing other things, and that's different. And so I could quickly check, and by the time I got done, I could check in with my supervisor as the aide and just show them quickly, because it's hard at the end of the day to try to remember what happened too, after 25 students on your charge. And so that's where I got that idea. So I put a sample binder together, and you know, I showed them and they liked it, and then I left. I don't know if they put, I said I would put one together for every teacher, because I understood now how you can't just stop for one, and you know, but it is important. So And with that in mind, working with special ed before, because you don't want someone to just quickly be pushed, just taking time with a little TLC and keeping data. And at first, there was a lot of bickering in the first year because some teachers specifically said, and we were at the PBIS training, the first one, in the first year, and we were supposed to take a paragraph, each of us as, you know, with a partner, and break it down. And I was talking about how it's data driven, because we need to make decisions based on information, not just a hunch. And sometimes we've done that and we can't, and that's what you're all about. And they didn't like the word data. And I said again, I mean, we could go on lunch and see the data. We could watch our kids and see what's going on quickly. They just didn't like the word data. And so that right there put up a wall in the communication among the teachers. It was not happening at first, and that's the part that's missing. And when I got to Julia this year, and the first meeting we went to, the first training, and I asked my team, how is it here with PBIS? Because I remember what was going on, and it took a lot to try to get it moving at Sutherland at first, and they're on it, I believe. And one of them said, well, they're not really into it here. And being a new teacher, I just kind of went, oh, to fit in a little bit, I needed to adjust and settle in, I thought too, as a new teacher, but it's still very important to me. And I work with PBIS and Avid in my classroom with second graders. They get it, they really get it. But it's hard to branch out without making others feel like, I have to do this now, or what? I've been here for 20 years. What are you going to tell me? And you know, being a new teacher, it's a lot of weird balancing act right now for me. But I really wanted to come up and share what I've seen at 2 different schools. I hope it's valuable, what you can take from this. But the communication between the teachers and the staff, if that's not going to happen, nothing we say is going to work. That's where the PBIS has to start also. And I don't know how to do this. It's not about the technology. It's not about the, you know, quickly putting in data. And you have a tough position right now. It's really important to me, and I love PBIS, but it's not a joke. And I think some people are taking it as it's PBIS. No, it's PBIS. It really is something that can lead somewhere, that can stop kids from falling through the cracks, that can stop a lot of stuff prevention-wise. But we all have to be on board a little bit, and we all have to do a little self-reflection. Yeah, there's a lot involved, and sometimes it's hard to get the adults to do that. And we don't have much time to even sit and talk with each other, and we're tired. And I will, though. I mean, I'm here now. And I don't mind it, you know, old school. Dad said, if you got something to do, you do it before it lingers. And I want to learn as much as I can being a brand new teacher as well. However, you know, maybe there's a difference there too, because I feel like I'm very moldable right now. I'm very open. I just got through my graduate school. I'm in a new way of thinking with the education. I turned and I called Dad. I said, Dad, what do you think? He said, if you don't do and say what you need to now, you're doing a disservice to any kids. You do what you need and you say, and you raise them right, you treat them right, and you show them respect, and you show them how to give respect. And so when I had that child for a couple of months, that was an overflow, and that was the toughest one I had, Julia Morgan. And when I came to Julia, a lot of my colleagues at Sutherland said, oh, you're going to Julia. And I went, well, what does that mean? Well, I know it's had a good reputation, but you can come across any kind of situations anywhere. And it happened because the demographics are changing. And so I felt unprepared and prepared at the same time. And this, you know, situation came my way. And all the other students didn't understand what was going on with this one. And I was trying to work, and I had my binder, and then I had a behavior chart, and then I was pulling out all of the interventions. Like you said, you try to work things in the classroom first, but you've got to keep record of that too, so you can show what you've tried. And not everyone's doing that. And I brought the idea up again to my teachers and my team here. It hasn't really taken, it was kind of like it went that way over their head. And so it's not settling in, I think, in hearts. sometimes where it needs to be also, because the communication won't happen if people take it as a joke. So again, and then today, I also asked and I mentioned, and I always thought, does PBIS and AVID kind of go hand in hand? Because sometimes the behaviors are happening because of the academics and vice versa. And if they're not feeling like they understand everything and they get embarrassed and they just want to shut down, and so things, you see a connection sometimes. And so I'm trying to also talk to my principal and possibilities with getting Julia to become an AVID school. I'm working with Cindy Medler all the time. One of my mentors here, Dave Hurley, and I keep in touch with those I learn from. I love to learn from my elders. And you got to sit and listen sometimes. I don't know it all, and sometimes I have something to add, but maybe I should listen a little more and try to, absorb more and try to implement it. But I'm not perfect every day. But
Your 3 minutes are up, and a while ago, and we're kind of getting a little off topic.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to wrap it up?
I will. Thank you. But again, I guess the main point is the communication matters a lot first. Because the kids are watching and learning from us. No matter what we tell them, they're watching and learning from what we say to each other and how we treat each other. And I think that's where we need to go back to. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, thank you for the presentation, appreciate it.
Very nice job.
Thank you. Board Advisory Committee reports, are there any? Future agenda items, board, any? Okay.
I move we adjourn, sir.
Just so you know, we will be adjourning to closed session.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah, I'm serious. And we thank you, so good evening. I think we
Oh, Bethany, yeah, good.
That's exactly what I thought. I didn't know what it was.
I'm going to whatever she is. Oh, so that's no. Oh, no. No, just talk to him then. Let him know that. Sarah is a whole. She can't tell you once, but she told me.
Yeah, Michelle, I can do this along. Oh, and here I'm gonna do this hat after I rescue it.
Somebody should go to the.
These Girl Scout cookies are just way on the. I don't know. Priorities. I did the entire school and then.
The principal has the right to be able to make a decision if they think there's a compelling reason why one should be the backfill. Like many of them will talk to the person who's going out of the classroom and say, are you comfortable? They'll say, are you comfortable to 6 in case your job ends next week? Are you able to 7? She's not that way, so they decide the whole class.
Yes. So right now,